We're gonna start the front. Oh yeah. I'm gonna put it in this cup. Come on. No, cut the rubber. That's it. Well, this one is how to beat. I'm not watching. I was about to say, I just changed the look of it. I was about to say, where all my stuff go? I still gotta react to all the other issue video and stuff. I'm looking for that. What else am I about to watch? This gonna take forever. I should have did this last night, but bro, man. They gotta be talking about Jay-Z that's born after 2010. Like, man, you must be watching shit.
People take one look at me and go, big, stupid, ugly ogre. We met.
This not gonna be long.
Big, stupid, ugly ogre.
That is must. Is this a mirror?
Yeah, I know.
Smartphone or tablet. And the thing about it is, I think they're really
It's
good
crazy
at using
because
these apps.
I had cut this shit off. I don't know why I chose to do that. And it was like cut, like cut. Now it's like growing, like.
Or hey, type this
That's
document
okay.
in
Like with,
Microsoft
cause I
Word.
cut it like
They're
last
not.
week.
They're like probably looking for ChatGPT. Like where's the
I ain't gonna go
ChatGPT?
fast. I'm gonna go
Meanwhile,
fast.
the millennials and Gen X, and then some of the boomers might be a lot more accustomed to doing things like that because of the environment we grew up in. We didn't grow up with apps, but on the opposite side, like
Like her
the situation, Gen Z and Gen
if
Alpha
anything,
didn't
like my
grow
hair growth,
up
I get that from my
using
dad.
Microsoft Word. They weren't using Excel spreadsheets. This wasn't a common practice for them. So I kind of feel like, to an extent, because of the way society changed, they just weren't given the same tools, if that makes sense. A lot of the resources and tools that a lot of the millennials, Gen X, and the boomers use is because there was no other option. And even when we were introduced to a lot of this new technology, we were trying to figure out how to use it. It was being shown also to the kids. It was being implemented in the schools. I don't know if they're in the schools now using Microsoft Word. I don't even know if the kids write papers in schools anymore. Like, there are schools that have gone completely digital and they have laptops. They don't even come to school with a notepad.
What's up, Kinsley G2E? How you doing?
This is different. Also, when I was in
Thank
school,
you. It's
they were
not
teaching us
even.
how to type.
I'm taking this down. I'm not even gonna lie.
How many words you could type per minute? I'm saying all this.
Hi, Mohammed. Rubble. I hope I'm saying that right. Hi. Say hello. How y'all doing today?
With AI and automation and all these other things coming in the same time, when Gen Z and Gen Alpha are trying to get their footing and understand all the technology as well, I don't believe they're going to be learning shortcuts on how to perform a certain function on Microsoft Excel. I just don't think it's going to happen. And what's happening is the jobs are like, hey, we need people who are good at this. And they're like, what is that? What is that? 6, 7? Like, what is that? And as older generations like are looking at them like, what do you mean you don't know how to?
Oh, thank you. My mom made this shirt. It's kind of old though, but thank you.
It's a different time, but this is
to
interesting conversation because it is the older
how y'all day going though?
Gen X and millennials,
Deep Sea Sarah, thank you.
The younger generations like Gen Z and Gen Alpha, and these are
you in Cerebral?
still still think
is it nice out there?
that a lot of these older generations have mastered. And you would just think, yeah, the newer generation is better with technology. They're on it all the time.
Yeah.
They are not using it.
She had this like on Instagram, I think it's called Evokes Luxury or something, but I don't think she make like shirts and stuff no more. She has the whole thing in her basement, but I don't know. She be
and that's
I
a
don't know.
skill that a lot of employers are
I
looking
think she's
for.
taking a break from it.
You either kind of get with it or you get lost. Now, if you have an employer that isn't looking
But
for
how
it,
y'all
that's
day
not a problem.
going?
But if you are, it would look like Gen Z.
I don't know if y'all can hear me because I am kind of like watching YouTube at the same time. Like going live on YouTube, watching YouTube. But
also in your spare time,
I was supposed to do my hair last night and I went to sleep. I was overworked. Well, I wasn't overworking, but I was like doing mad hours at my job. I worked for Chick-fil-A at the airport, so I was tired when I came
The
home.
other problem I think that is happening at the same time is perhaps they might not want to do that. They might not want to do that, and the ones who don't will get left behind. Or technology will evolve, and maybe they can get with that and be of use to certain jobs that want to hire them because they've learned that new thing, whatever that new thing is. Like AI, lots of jobs looking for anybody who knows how to use it.
Cause my hair used to be like when I say, let me see.
Really using the technology for the fun.
It's right here, right? Like to my eye. My hair used to be right here, but I had cut it. I don't know why, but I cut it.
The Gen Z and Gen Alpha
Chick-fil-A.
was taught to get on
Can I please have some chicken? I could see if I could you up Grand Dove. I could see if I could hook you up.
when their parents are trying to get them out their face. That's the
Like
thing.
what? Like were you like you in Michigan?
Are used the way that my millennial brain see a computer, I see it as a smart machine that can be used to do a
Dog. Cause it's crazy because I cut my hair like mad. I not only like I do different styles, and there was a time when I did like dreadlocks, and my hair was like it was grown, but it wasn't like grown per se, cause it was like the style. You had to get your hair twisted every other week, and I just couldn't keep up with that, and it was making me mentally I just didn't like how it was making me mentally feel. So I had ended up taking my dreadlocks out. This was like around Christmas, and I had it in for a good 5, 6 months. And when I took it out, I'm not gonna lie, I lost a little bit of hair, and then I grew it back. But then I was doing this one style. I don't know what style I was doing, but I was doing this one style, and I cut my hair. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna just cut it. Like not on some like cut the ends, like cut it to where it's like I don't know. I just be doing stuff, and then it's just I be irritated afterwards. I do it. I just be like, ain't no going back, but it grow back. But it's like I don't know. Let me just be quiet. But at least it's just going. It's slowly growing. I gotta be grateful for what I do have. At least I have some hair. It ain't much, but it's something.
They'll rush out and get the latest iPhone. You know, every year,
and then this right here that I'm combing up was nothing. I had cut it because I was trying to do something. I was trying to do this certain lineup, and it was looking good for a good week. And then after a week, I was just like, "Fuck, I'm growing this shit back out." Like, I was I can't.
Why upgrade to the newest device if you haven't understood or tried to even understand the functions and new additions that you currently have on your current smartphone? What would make you want to go up to the next level? Except the fact that it's just
some
new
grease
and everybody knows it's new.
I couldn't find my other
When people do that when it comes to laptops, if you don't know
other grease that I really want to use.
Gigabyte, display resolution.
Oh, I know where it might be.
The laptop, what is the point? Except you just want to spend money. But I digress.
Still right here the whole
Because
time.
this video sparked quite the debate.
And I need the
So
phone
this
up.
video ended up getting 1.8 million views on TikTok. So people definitely have a lot to say about this. And then when I click down here real quick to see what he had in his description, he's saying here, it's not their fault, referring to
this
the
one I put the
1-year-olds that were looking to get the job.
twisting. Let me show y'all. I'm gonna show y'all the twistings I've been using.
Not computer native. So So they're
in a
pretty much
second.
computer illiterate, is what he's saying. Swipe, tap, scroll. But a keyboard and a spreadsheet, foreign. And he also was going to say that schools stopped teaching typing. Did they really? Somebody else down here is saying they don't teach typing anymore. That might be part of the problem.
I don't know why I stopped using this Can 2 because I used to use this all the time. It would help my hair grow.
What is your Excel experience? I'm 18.
Especially after you wash it. But I ain't gonna lie, I did not wash my hair. I washed my hair last week. I'm gonna be dead ass honest.
They said no,
we don't see a week or two ago.
at all. I'm 22 and never used
I
it.
just wash it.
And
I
so
take
when
this
he
down.
saying, now it's understandable. So we are demanding.
When was I washing every month? Every month or every other month?
We
I don't
need
be
to do
tripping.
some work to understand what is the.
Cause sometimes I feel like, especially with certain hair textures and like genetics and stuff, I feel like for some people it's good to wash it every month, and for some people it's good to wash it every other month. So it really depends. Like I don't know. Or like the style you have, it really depends.
Looking out for the company.
So I don't be caring sometimes.
Use a spreadsheet. You know, you can't always be like, Gen Z don't know how to do that, so we just ain't gonna do. Like, if the company needs that,
I learned to comb from the roots first, and then not the root, but what you call it, ends first, and then go towards the root. Otherwise, you be like pulling like hair to where like
get on the
I don't know.
resources like YouTube and get on Excel and get on Google Docs and things like that. Try to figure out the keystrokes and the shortcuts. Somebody's going to do it because.
Where's body count crash?
But some of their generation, instead of doom scroll.
Oh God. What? We got rid of boredom. Now look at us. Addicted to stimulation. Could last 10 minutes. What?
When was the last time you were bored? No, think about it. When was the last time you sat in your thoughts? No distractions, no phones, no music, just complete boredom. Because based on other people's
no play. You gotta
being
not do
bored
something.
was physically painful.
I forgot my AirPods yesterday, and the first 5 minutes into my shift, I was in my thoughts, right? I gave
Wanna go
myself
to the
a
park?
migraine.
Today it seems like doing
But then you're
something
doing
as
something.
simple as absolutely nothing is a lot
When I'm
harder
asleep,
for
that's
us than it should
out
be.
of the.
To the point where even
Oh my gosh. I'll watch that video later. I wanna watch how to beat survival movies. I'm not gonna lie, watching these movies, it just made me be like, I need to be more active. Not I just gotta get back in my gym era. Cause there was times I was going to the gym every week. Now I barely do. I work out at work. That's what I do. Oh my gosh. Messing my thing up.
Meet Shields, I've got a question. What's the worst thing that could possibly happen on your wedding day?
My hair went long, though. I don't know if I should
lost
say
to
that.
death. This girl's probably got you beat. That's right, fam. Our girl graced the wedding slave.
Alright, now I'm gonna put it right
And I'm
there.
happy to say the sequel is a total banger. But this time she has to play a game of deadly hide and seek against the whole group chat of demon-worshipping rich people. And they're gonna stop at nothing to hunt her down. So I'm here to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the rich people death game in Ready or
Still
Not 2.
thick right here. Make sure this. Alright, bitch. Damn. I better watch. What was this? Click this. The Beneath. I ain't see this movie. I ain't gonna lie, sometimes I'll be watching this and don't be watching the full movie. Or I'll watch the full movie and then I'll watch the or I'll watch how to be virgins, and then when I done watching the movie, I'll be like, oh, I just seen this on YouTube.
And an employee said they were offered payment to keep silent.
I don't know if I should do an extra type because I do the crocheting.
Sexist attacks. UDP is responsible for the content of this app.
I'm irritated.
Alright, Meat Shields, I got something special for
But I
you. And
think
by
they do
special,
it
I
tight,
mean
though.
one of the most ridiculous movies you'll
I think.
probably ever see in your life. Now, when you think water monsters, you probably think sharks, crocodiles, you know, something that actually is scary.
That's a
But I bet you've
catfish.
never seen a giant, goofy-ass catfish with a hunger for human flesh. And it's about to
Man,
put
well, I
up
seen
Jaws
catfish
numbers
too,
on a
right?
rowboat
My
full of the
uncle
biggest
had
clowns who ever
caught
walked
one
the
and
earth.
he released
So
it
I'm here
back
to
in
break
the
down the
water.
mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat Fishzilla in Beneath. We open to a murky lake somewhere deep in the woods, where we find this girl going for a
Yeah.
swim. But this huge
Well, that's
fin suddenly
tea,
pops
'cause
up
I
behind her,
swear,
and
like,
Johnny wakes up in
2
bed
weeks
to a
ago,
text from his friend Kitty,
it
the
was,
girl
like,
from the
right
dream.
here.
He's heading out for a little
Like,
campaign
what?
trip with Kitty
I
and
was
the
cutting
homies,
my
but on
shit.
his
I
way
don't know
out,
why
he
the
grabs
fuck I
this
be
weird
doing
little
that.
tooth necklace off the mirror. And we see a newspaper clipping about some kind of huge creature living in the
I need to
lake.
put this
So
front
it's
thing
off
up
they
there
go
going
down these backcountry roads until they finally get to the spot. And after carrying this dinky looking rowboat all the way down to the
Oh,
water,
wait, 'cause I
Johnny
gotta
walks
twist
up
it in
all
the
out of breath
thing.
and tries giving Kitty the necklace. He says it's to keep her safe, whatever that's supposed to mean, but Kitty's with this dude Matt, so she gives
Alright,
it
we'll
back
go
and
to the
says that
next
she'll try it on later. He
What's
goes
that,
back for his bag when some random old man walks
Let
up
me do
and
this
grabs his
front.
shoulder. Apparently, this is Mr. Parks, a good friend of Johnny's grandpa. And for whatever reason, he really doesn't want these dummies going out on the lake, but Johnny promises he won't let anyone get in the water, so they all climb aboard and set sail. But that was their biggest mistake. Alright, hold up. Something is a little fishy here, if you ask me. Like, I don't know who came up with the invite list for this trip, but can we talk about the group dynamics for just a second? Because we got our main man, Johnny, the quiet loner dude, and Kitty's ex, who clearly still has a thing for her. Zeke, the thirsty nerd who films everything, probably loves horror movies and has a thing for anything that walks. Matt, the alpha meathead who's getting with Kitty and obviously has a problem with Johnny, and the last but not least is this dude named Simon, Matt's psycho crash-out brother, who's clearly jealous of Matt and Kitty. And now they're all gonna hop on this rinky-dink little Popeye-ass rowboat that looks like it was made for 2, maybe 3 guys to go fishing, not a whole GMC Yukon full of high school kids with more beers in their cooler than brain cells. It's just a weird squad, is all I'm saying. And whether that's just how they roll or what, Johnny's dead wrong for bringing them out here, because this dude fully believes there's a damn giant killer fish in this lake. That's like going to Camp Crystal Lake being fully aware that Jason is out there and expecting him not to show up and put you on a t-shirt. You have got to be dumb. And sure, he promised Old Man River that nobody would get in, but does he honestly think that he has any control over that? No offense, but I don't really think they respect his opinion too much. And in case he hasn't noticed, they're all wearing bathing suits. It's literally the first thing that they're going to do. But you can tell the rest of them aren't too smart either. Because if I walked over there and found the guy who planned this field trip having a heated argument with Hector Salamanca as soon as we got there, I'd want to know what was up with that. And Johnny casually giving Kitty some kind of weird, creepy necklace for protection. Nah, like protection from what? Like, I got questions, okay? Now, me personally, you could never catch me out here in the first place. But if I was, I would just stay next to Johnny and his magical necklace until I found out what was the problem, and then I'd be good. Simple. So the gang starts rowing for the other side. Matt's doing all the work while everyone else is just sitting around yapping. But Johnny keeps staring at the water like he's got something on his mind. And as soon as they get all the way out to the middle, Matt brings it to a stop and goes, "Who's going in?" Well, Johnny starts saying how they should just stay on the boat and keep going, but they're all too dumb and full of teenage hormones to care. So Matt, Kitty, Deb, they all jump in while the other 3 dweebs stay back on the boat. They're swimming around, you know, splashing each other and stuff. And Matt's brother Simon lights off a firework and then chucks it in the lake mad disrespectfully. But the whole time, Johnny's just sitting there looking worried. So he breaks out that magical necklace and decides to put it on. Just then something comes along and hits the bottom of the boat. And at first they think it's probably nothing, but whatever it is just keeps coming back. Only just as they're actually starting to worry, it turns out to be just Matt messing around. He makes Simon open the bottle for him on some little bro type stuff, then takes a big old swig and just goes back to swimming with the ladies. All while Johnny is still over here saying that they need to head out. As for the girls, Deb's busy reminiscing about that one time at summer camp. Like, damn, does everybody here have a thing for Kitty? But while they're still goofing around, something hits the boat again. And this time, it can't be Matt, because he's with the girls. The fellas start waving for them to come back as it bumps the boat another time, but when Johnny looks over the side, he finally sees it. It's a humongous catfish, the size of a shark. and it's headed straight for Matt and the girls. Except for whatever reason, Johnny doesn't say and those three still have no idea they're injured until Kitty feels something bump into her leg. They look over and they see the boys calling them back, so getting worried, they all start swimming back to the boat, but while the other two are swimming for their lives, Deb stops to look back, and all she sees is this huge shape coming right for her. So she turns on the burners and gets back to the boat just in time. Matt and Simon grab the paddles and they start trying to scare it off, but that just makes it even more pissed. So it comes back and hits the bottom, almost knocking them in. Simon keeps going until he finally loses a paddle, so Deb's all like, "We need that oar, yo," and starts reaching over to the other side. But just as she's about to grab it, the catfish jumps out of the water and almost takes her damn arm off with its huge freaking teeth. She jumps back just in time, but after a second they realize that the fish actually got her, and she's losing a lot of blood. So Matt just starts grabbing random crap to try and tie it off. But the only thing Deb's worried about is grabbing that paddle. But right when he gets close, the fish just jumps up and bites it in half. By the time they turn around, Deb's already RIP'd, making one down with 5 more to go. Well, damn, son, I guess the rumors about this fish were true. Now, I don't know if they need to volunteer any way to deal with this or what, but if fish sellers are out here catching bodies, it's safe to say that we're off to a pretty rough start. And that's the problem, because even before this overgrown bottom feeder showed up to run their fade, these dummies were already setting themselves up to get smoked. I mean, based on the locked gate they had to go through just to get out here, it's pretty obvious that they're not supposed to be here, which means that nobody's going to come looking for them if anything happens. And since their phones don't have service, and we're dealing with
Channel 5. Watch Channel 5 News.
No emergency SOS. They can't even call for help. So as soon as Deb realized that the fish severed her brachial artery, she was already donezo. That's one of the main arteries in your arm, and if it gets cut, you can die for blood loss in less than 5 minutes, and that's if you get medical attention right away. But unfortunately for Deb, the closest thing she had to a doctor was a bunch of wasted morons who couldn't even stop the bleeding. Instead of just wrapping a bunch of crap around her arm and going, "I hope that works," first you'd want to put that belt above the cut, all the way up near her shoulder. Then push a little stick up or something through the loop and twist it until it's as tight as it can go. But even with that, we're only buying her a few minutes here, tops. So considering they were probably still hours from the nearest hospital, there's pretty much no way Deb was getting out of this alive. But me, though, that's another story, because I would have handled the situation completely differently. First, what's the main thing everyone knows about fish? They're actually attracted to vibrations and splashing on the surface, because to them it means food. So when these two dummies were over here trying to Captain Ahab this thing with their paddles, all they actually did was keep getting its attention and making it even more pissed off. And that's why I would have done the exact opposite. Instead of splashing around causing a whole big scene, I would just hang out for a minute until the fish lost interest, and then slowly paddle back to shore and we'd be Gucci Mane. And if one of the paddles fell over, I'd just use the other paddle to grab it instead of reaching for it like an absolute bozo. Or have Johnny do it, since he's the one with the magical anti-fish necklace. So he should be able to reach over there no problem. I mean, it's really not that hard. Then it would be smooth sailing back to the shore and nobody even has to get sent home in a body bag. Easy. So they're all just standing around shocked, right? Like, damn, Deb really just got bodied by a fish. Well, that's when it comes back and scrapes the bottom of the boat, so Matt pulls Deb's arm away before it can drag her back in, and their only choice is to paddle back with the one oar that they have. So while Simon's busy doing that, the others start trying their phones up, but no service. And just when it seems like things couldn't get any worse, the fish comes back and rams the side of the boat. This is when things start getting comical, because this dude Simon deadass yells out, "What are you?" and starts taking chops at it with the paddle. And then as it's swimming away, he goes, "What do you want?" Like, brother, it's a fish. It can't talk to you. But the fish turns around and decides to spin the block. So Simon grabs the only paddle and takes another swing, only to end up getting pulled in. The others pull him back up just as Fishzilla's about to eat him alive, and it hits the boat so hard that it breaks the side, causing a bunch of water to start pouring in. Now luckily it ends up swimming away to go mog them all from a distance, but now they gotta figure out how to go back with no paddles. Matt realizes that Johnny's being awfully quiet here. You know, come to think of it, he was acting pretty weird when they decided to go swimming in the first place, which kind of makes the guys realize that Johnny must be keeping secrets. So they start threatening to throw him over unless he spills the beans. He caves and says that he heard stories about the monster, but he tried to play it off like he didn't believe it was real. Kitty calls him out like, well, then what's up with the necklace? Which is a valid point. I'm not gonna lie, they did show that necklace. Zeke chimes in saying they need a distraction to get away, so you can probably guess where he's going with this. He wants to dump Deb's body overboard. Kitty's not really down with that and starts looking at Johnny for some validation, but my boy ends up siding with the fellas. So after saying their respects, they just plop Deb in the water and send her out to sea.
No, go
They start off
swim.
just watching her float around like a bobber on a
Right.
fishing line. But after taking a few test bites, the fish actually grabs her and takes her
No,
down.
go
And as soon
swim.
as she goes under, everybody starts hitting
Oh
the
my
paddling
God.
like hell. Everyone except Zeke, of course, who's just filming the whole thing. And now that they can't see where the fish is, they're all too afraid to keep paddling.
Oh my God, they just messing up the
Yikes.
opportunity.
It looks like Deb just got turned into a fish sandwich. But all jokes aside, this was probably one of the smartest things they could have done. You see, as messed up as it was to throw Deb overboard, at this point, she was literally dead weight. And like I said before, they're already pushing this dinky little rowboat way too far as it is. I mean, a boat like that's usually built for 3, maybe 4 people to ride in safely, but they packed 6 heads in there, plus all their camping stuff and a cooler full of beer. So we're already riding dirty to begin with, and now that they've got water coming in thanks to Simon's one-sided beef with a fish, they need to start dropping weight before this whole thing goes down like the Titanic. So throwing Deb overboard might not have been pretty, but from a survival standpoint, it does make a lot of sense. Now with that being said, we can still do a lot better, because if we're already using Deb as a distraction, then I'm just saying we could try using her as bait instead. Yeah, I know that sounds bad, but hear me out.
What's up,
Since this dummy
babe?
Simon over here just lost not
Good.
one, but both of their paddles, getting back to shore is not going to be easy. And if this boat sinks before they can get there, they're all getting turned into fish food right on the spiz eye. They
I
honestly
was
should have
gonna
never
call
let
my
Bro anywhere
cousin
near a
doing my
paddle
hair,
after he
but
followed the
I was
first
like, I
one.
just
But if they can pull a
streamed.
Jeremy Wade and actually catch the river
Yeah,
monster,
I did
that
this
completely
last
changes
night.
everything. So here's what I'm thinking. First, we're
Go
gathering up any
sleep.
sharp, pointy pieces of metal we can find that could be from their belt buckles or some random brackets from the boat, and then we'll take the hatchet and whatever other tools they got and start bending and sharpening the metal into hooks. After we have a whole bunch of those, we take the hooks and attach them to some of the ropes that we've got lying around, and once that's done, all we gotta do is add some bait and go fishing. But once we get it to bite, there's 2 things that we could do. There's a chance this thing's strong enough to pull the whole boat, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if they hook the fish, then start throwing more bait towards shore, they might actually be able to lasso this thing and make it pull them to dry land like a carrot on a stick. You know what I'm talking about. Or the more realistic plan, they hook Fishzilla, and while they have it trapped, someone takes Johnny's hatchet and sends it to the Shadow Realm. And with the fish out of the picture, they can just swim back and they'll be all set. Alright, in the meantime, between time, they start trying to bail as much water out as they can, which is when Matt gets an idea and starts using the lid from the cooler to paddle instead. But Simon starts yapping at him like, can't you go any faster? And the second he gets distracted, bada bing, the fish just swims up and takes that too. Another hilarious reaction here as Matt screams, are you serious, my guy? Like my boy is genuinely getting rage baited by a fish. It's brutal, but it looks like they're gonna need a new plan here. And this time they just try dumping whatever's in the cooler, hoping that it might distract it. But nah, this fish wants blood, not potato chips. So Simon decides that he's just gonna paddle as long as they can see where it is. Everybody joins in and the plan actually works, and for about 2 seconds, all that splashing draws the fish right towards them. Simon turns around and goes, I will not let that thing control us. As if the fish is like some kind of evil mastermind or something. Zeke points out that the only thing that actually worked was feeding it dead. But they're fresh out of dead bodies around here, so what are they gonna do? Well, it looks like somebody's gotta go overboard. But nobody's volunteering to go for a swim, so they decide that they're gonna vote on it instead. Zeke says that they should all get a chance to argue their case before they kick somebody off. While at first, Kitty's the only one trying to talk them out of it. But then the fish comes back, hits the boat again, and immediately votes Zeke without even hearing him out. Like, damn, okay, so they each go around explaining why they should just get to stay on the boat. And Matt and Simon, it's easy, they're the strongest. Johnny chooses to plead the fifth, putting the spotlight on Zeke, and instead of giving a single valid reason, this goober just starts going off about how, like, unlike them, he's actually gonna do something with his life, which is wild to say. That just leaves Kitty, and just like Zeke, her entire argument is, I'm gonna be famous one day, so I'm more important than you. And with that, the voting starts. Kitty and Johnny both vote Zeke, but Zeke and Simon vote for Johnny, leaving the final vote up to Matt. So Kitty hits him with the old vote for Zeke, because he's neat type. But Broski just turns around and goes, yeah, I'm voting for Johnny. So with the votes coming in 3-2, it looks like Johnny has got to go. And he knows he's going in one way or the other. So instead of trying to fight it, he just goes, all right, I'll come back for you, kitty, and dives in the water. He pops up a pretty good distance away, but the fish immediately starts going after him, and they both suddenly disappear below the surface.
MAGA will do anything to get Haley Stevens elected. Trump donors, billionaires, and AIPAC have spent millions to help her. Stevens opposes Medicare for All and even voted to thank ICE for protecting our homeland. A record MAGA loves so much, they're lying about the one person who stands in their way. Abdul El-Sayed is the strongest candidate to take on Trump.
We don't back down!
That's why he's endorsed by Bernie, AOC, and UAW. Fighting for Michigan PAC is responsible for the content of this ad.
Hey man, take a slow-mo. Everyone's got a real self and a camera self. I only shoot the real ones.
But they don't have one that don't look like sunglasses. What the fuck? So why is
Find out
it
why you're paying more this summer at stickershocksummer.org.
So why would you promote that? Okay, state's about to get raised. Come shop.
Already voting people off the boat, bro. It's
Commercials these
a
days,
thing. This isn't some genius level threat we're talking about here. I mean, sorry if there's any catfish
we don't
watching, but in
promote
terms of
cheap
brain
stuff.
power, they're pretty much bottom of the barrel in the whole animal
Good deal,
kingdom.
budget.
So the fact that it keeps outplaying them when its thoughts are literally consist of like blub 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 is actually pretty hilarious. I cannot lie. And of all the people to vote off, they picked Johnny? Not too smart, dude. See, I can understand why, since he basically set them up, but the problem is, Johnny's the only one who actually knows what the hell is going on. So instead of kicking him off, I would vote to keep him around. Because even though he's technically got us in this mess, he's probably our best chance of getting out. But before I started voting anyone off, there's two things that I would be focused on. First, we gotta stop more water from coming in. So I would grab our shirts, sleeping bags, like anything that we could use to block up the hole and have someone keep pressure on it at all times. And then once that's covered, we'll go through our gear and toss anything that's like not useful, like the 60-pound cooler full of beers clowns are just holding onto for no damn reason. All that stuff's gotta go. That way we don't sink as fast. Now, one of their biggest problems is that this fish keeps catching them by surprise. But I have a plan for that, because as we just saw with the cooler lid, catfish will eat just about anything that fits in their mouth. So here is what I'm thinking. Remember back in Jaws, how Quint started hitting the shark with those big yellow barrels? Yeah, that's what we're gonna have to do here. But since we don't have any harpoons, we basically gotta improvise. Because this time I'm taking one of those big metal brackets off the side of the boat, tying it to the rope, and then attaching every life jacket they have. Then I'll just splash around until the fish shows up, and when it opens its mouth, boom, I drop the line right in. The metal bracket should get stuck in its throat, meaning it'll swim away with the rope still attached, and now everywhere it goes, we'll see a trail of orange life jackets floating on the surface. And then we can just paddle with our hands when we know it's safe. And if the fish attacks, the life jackets should even slow it down, which makes dealing with this thing a lot easier. Now, as soon as that fish goes after Johnny, the others start paddling for shore, and it's going pretty well until they all start bickering about random bullshit again. You see, Kitty's guilty over what happened, but then we got Zeke back here who deadass goes, leave the talking to us men. Like, wow, bro. Matt and Simon just want everyone to shut up and keep paddling, but now Kitty's all upset with Matt for kicking Johnny off instead of Zeke. So needless to say, tensions are at an all-time high. But they end up wasting so much time that the fish comes back and starts circling the boat. New strategy time. They realize that they still have a bag full of fireworks, okay? So they all grab a bunch of sparklers and start lighting them off, dealing absolutely zero damage. Like it's the most useless thing they could have done. And the fish just swims off all nonchalant and disappears back underwater. And they're still sinking pretty fast, which means that they're gonna have to drop some dead weight. Realizing where this is going, Zeke starts talking about how they can all still get through this with the power of friendship. Well, nobody's buying it anymore. And Simon hits him with the old, "That's rich coming from you." So you know he means business. But that's when they see the fish coming back. And Zeke starts crashing out immediately on an epic level, trying anything he can to talk his way out of it. I mean, they're just about to throw him off when Zeke drops the bombshell of the century and tells Matt that Kitty's been cheating on him with his own brother. Ooh! Now, obviously, they both start trying to deny it, but the thing about Zeke is he films everything, so he says he's got the receipts. Matt really doesn't want to believe it at first, so even with that, he decides to vote for Zeke just because he's annoying as hell, which means it's 3 against 1, and there's nothing Zeke can do as they pick him up and toss him overboard. Man starts reaching for the boat, trying to get back on, but Simon just keeps kicking him whenever he gets close, and the 3 of them just start paddling away, leaving Zeke to fend for himself. That's when the fish shows up and starts dragging him under. So the last thing the camera sees is Zeke being eaten alive. And that makes 2 down with 4 more to go.
Away.
Damn! Well, I guess that's a wrap for old Zekester. Sorry, Broseph, but as we all know, every friend group has its designated meat shield, and it looks like this time it turned out to be you.
I would twist him back.
It's a tough way to find out, but honestly, you totally deserved it. So, sorry, Zekey boy, but you done You see, Zeke, this is exactly why you never want to be the first guy to say, we should throw someone overboard.
This is basically how I
Especially when
repart
you're
my
by
hair.
far the most annoying and useless one in the entire room. Now, I'm not saying
if I take it all down and comb it all out together, then try to repart it, it's gonna take longer than
everyone knows you're just looking out for yourself, and what's absolutely hilarious is you're such an obnoxious dweeb that you almost got voted off in the first round because of your own idea. And I mean, I'm sorry, but that is wild. They had a choice between the guy who brought them out there, knowing damn well there was a giant monster fish, and they almost picked you. So if that's not a sign you need to reevaluate your life, I don't know what is. And when they asked why they should let you live, your genuine response was, because I'm more important than you. Okay, well, have fun swimming then. Like, of all the things you could have possibly come up with, you made a statement so trash, even your own gang clowned you. And when everybody finally decided they were done with you, now you want to pull the teamwork card? Nah, broski, it doesn't work like that at all. I don't even know why you were hanging out with these 4 when they clearly hated you so much. Like, Kitty and Johnny voted you off with absolutely no hesitation, true. And even Matt, your supposed best friend, said, and I quote, "You're an irritation, and you always have been." And that's right before he threw you off. Now, personally, I'd rather just have no friends than deal with this weird psycho love triangle all day. But when your own plan backfires so bad that even your boys turn against you, that's how you know you don't Anyway, Zeke wasn't the only one making dumb choices here, because these idiots forgot to smash his GoPro. So now, anyone who finds it is gonna know they basically just killed a guy. And, 2, they completely wasted those fireworks. See, I've been thinking about how we could have used those the entire time, but then it hit me. Fireworks aren't allowed in state parks, which means instead of using them against the fish, we can actually use them to attract attention, aka call for help. So while they kept working on other ideas, I just start setting off some fireworks, one at a time, every few minutes or so, and with any luck, that might get a park ranger to show up, and then he could just smoke this fish with the blammer, and bingo, we're all saved. Meanwhile, Johnny wakes up back on shore and spots those other 3 dummies still paddling across the lake. But when he looks over, he notices Old Man Park's motorboat sitting there ready to go, and that gives him another idea. Back on the boat, Matt hasn't really said much since they tossed Zeke overboard, and realizing what's on his mind, the other 2 start swearing that whatever Zeke said was a load of crap. But while his back's turned, Simon sticks his tongue out at Kitty, causing her to go, "No, stop!" And Matt takes that as Kitty saying that he should stop feeling bad. So he starts feeling confident again and decides to lock in. They start throwing anything they don't need overboard to help save on weight, which leads them to finding Johnny's hatchet. So they're both like, hell yeah, now we can piece this fish up. Matt tells Simon to get back to bailing, but instead he decides to start using the cooler as a paddle. And not even 2 seconds later, kablow, the fish takes it right out of his hands. That's when the fish comes back and hits the boat again, causing it to start sinking even faster. Kitty grabs the hatchet and starts chopping away like this is Resident Evil until the fish finally swims off. The guys are like, hell yeah, Kitty, that was sick, but even though they got rid of the fish, they still need to get back to the shore. And that's when they spot my dude Johnny coming to the rescue. He comes sailing over with this pissed off look on his face, while these other 3 are just like, hey buddy, glad you made it. But he's not about to let them kick him off another boat. So instead of letting them get on, he says he's gonna tow them back. Yeah, okay. They keep trying to make the deal better, but Johnny tells them they can take it or leave it, and they agree to stay on their own boat. After thinking it over for a good minute, Johnny finally gets in closer and throws them the rope. And once they've got it, they tie it on and tell him to start pulling, but Simon's already figured out that they're going to be way too heavy, which means Johnny's going to have no choice but to let them get on. Sure enough, he doesn't have the juice, but before they can even try something else, the fish comes back and rams the boat, knocking Johnny off his feet. The boat starts spinning around with the line still attached, and as Johnny struggles to get up, the rope gets wrapped around his neck and starts winding tighter and tighter as the boat keeps spinning around in circles. I mean, do you see the footage, people? Grabbing that hatch as Kitty goes running to cut the line, but if she does that, then they won't be able to reach the motorboat. So at the last second, she stops herself and just lets him choke. Making 3 down with 3 more to go. Johnny might be donezo, but the boat is still running, so they grab the rope and start pulling him in, but just as they get close, the fish comes back and hits the motorboat, flipping it over. They keep trying to pull it in upside down, but right when they're almost there, the rope gets caught in the propeller, causing the engine to burn out. So it looks like
you killed your friend, you killed the boat, killed the motor. Now y'all still stuck.
I guess you could say that plans get in the water. And like, I know these aren't the smartest cookies or whatever, but this was clearly something else. I mean, first off, we got Johnny over here getting body bagged, Final Destination style, for absolutely no reason. Because if I was him, there's no way I'm going back to get these 3 after they literally just tried to feed me to a damn fish. I mean, sure, I'd probably go get help.
Yeah, I'd go get help.
But do you really think I'm going out there and risking my life again when they already used me as a meat shield once? Nah, that's crazy talk. And imagine saying all that just to get clapped by a rope in front of your ex and her new man. That's negative aura, I'm sorry. But what's crazy is he could have easily survived if he just used his head. See, if it was me and the rope started wrapping around my neck, I'd simply reach over and turn the damn motor off, and then abracadabra, I'm still alive. It's that simple. As for the others, do they even think before they just say some dumb and decide to run with it? Because there was literally no downside to cutting the rope and saving Johnny's life here. Like, the boat is still gonna be there if he's alive, duh. So if anything, letting him die just made this 1,000 times worse. Now, with that being said, I actually know what I would do to get out of this, so here's the plan. Earlier, Kitty let it slip to everyone how Johnny tried to give her that necklace for protection. And now we have proof that it works, because he swam across the whole lake without the fish packing him up. So if any of these morons actually turned their brains on, they'd realize the necklace is their ticket out of there. And that's why if it was me, I'm not even saying anything to the others, because they'll just crash out and make my life more difficult. But instead, I'm just grabbing the necklace off Johnny's body, and then I'll hop right in the water and swim back to shore. And the fish isn't even gonna bother me. Then I could send help for these other 2 dweebs, or just leave them there to fend for themselves. But either way, I'm chillin', easy dub. Back to square one, they all sit there waiting for the fish to take Johnny's body, but to their surprise, it just swims right by without even touching him. I mean, the fellas cannot believe their eyes. And that's when Simon gets another idea. Grabbing the hatchet, he starts chopping at the seats while this random cheerful music comes on that sounds like a Target commercial or something. They end up with a bunch of paddles made from the broken seat and start heading back towards the shore, but the fish is still out there lurking around, and there's no telling when it might strike again. So it seems like they're almost in the clear. Right. All they gotta do is make it to shore, and they're good. Okay. But just when they're actually starting to make some progress, Matt starts bringing up the whole Zeke situation again. Like, damn, dude, drop it. Speaking of going in circles, Kitty starts to worry they're not actually getting anywhere. But Matt's not letting it go, and he starts demanding to know if what Zeke said was true. Kitty's like, dude, he just made it all up to save himself, but Matt's not sure if he believes them. So he starts asking Simon what he has to say. And while they're all busy arguing, the fish comes back. Matt just sits there refusing to paddle until somebody fesses up, and since nobody wants to talk, he realizes that it's gotta be true. So he starts splashing around on purpose just to lure the fish over. Now, the boat ain't gonna survive another attack, and they all know it. So Simon says that they should have one more vote. He wants to throw Kitty overboard, then swim to shore while the fish is distracted. So Kitty finally admits that it was all true, but starts acting like Matt should still pick her over his own brother. Bold strategy, let's see how that works out. Well, now that he knows the truth, Matt decides he wants to kick Simon off. and breaks into this goofy wrestling match where not a single punch actually gets thrown, but after getting that out of his system, Matt actually starts wanting to hear him out. Simon lets it spill that Kitty came onto him after he got this big scholarship. So after finding out that she was just using him, Matt decides he's switching teams, which means it's time for Kitty to take another dip. Simon grabs the hatchet and starts getting ready to throw her off, but Matt steps in and tells him to chill. And realizing that she's cooked, Kitty turns around and starts saying how Simon was better in bed. Ooh, ouch. So Matt just goes, okay, that's enough, and picks her up and chucks her in. She starts trying to climb back on, but Simon goes over and starts lightly tapping her knuckles with the dull side of the hatchet. So Kitty takes a deep breath and disappears underwater.
There's one big reason everything's costing more. And there's one Michigander who will make Trump pay. It's Democrat Haley Stevens. Stevens took Trump on to protect Obamacare, called Michigan's most effective Democrat in the House. We need Haley Stevens in the Senate.
Save big on mattresses, like $900 off Serta Blue Lagoon Queen at $599, or Beauty Rest Level 1 Queen now $799. Plus, get free same-day delivery and up to $300 in free gifts, including a MasterCard gift card. Gardner White, Michigan's #1 mattress retailer.
The all-new iPhone 17e is here. Get it for just $99.99 with 2 months of prepaid service, then power it up on Boost. Unlimited everything on fast nationwide 5G. Switch to Boost. Get the newest iPhone. Terms apply. The all-new iPhone 17e is here. Get it for just $99.99 with 2 months of prepaid service, then power it up on Boost. Unlimited everything on fast nationwide 5G. Switch to Boost. Get the newest iPhone. Terms apply.
The cat's finally out of the boat. Get it? Like, cat's out of the bag. Anyway, I guess trying to play both sides finally backfired. Who would have thought? But even though Kitty is not exactly innocent in all of this, if I was her, I already know exactly what I would do here. See, there's two things we know for sure. One, the fish attacks anything that hits the water, but two, Johnny's magical necklace seems to actually work. So as soon as I realized they were kicking me off and that there was nothing I could do about it, I'm not even gonna argue. I'm just looking these two deadly eyes and then I'm flipping this boat. Yeah, because if I'm going in, we're all going in, broski. But while they're busy panicking, I'll already be putting my plan into action. So next, I'll just swim over to Johnny's body, grab the necklace, and that should keep me safe from the fish. And while it's busy eating these other guys, I'll just swim back to shore, no sweat. The best part is, if I'm the only survivor, I can spin this whole thing into a book deal or something. So not only did I survive, but I'll be set for life. Cash money, baby. See? Piece of cake. So a couple minutes go by without Kitty's body showing up, but if they don't see the fish eat her, they won't know when it's safe to swim. So Simon starts to worry the distraction might not work. Matt gets mad at him for even bringing it up since he's still over here feeling bad about what happened. So Simon apologizes and promises to chill out. But then as soon as Matt turns his back, Simon turns around and swings the hatchet straight at his dome piece. Matt dodges the hit and starts whooping his ass though, and Simon ends up going overboard, but he accidentally took a bad hit in the process. So now he's like leaking blood like crazy out of his head. Instead of leaving him for dead though, Matt dives in and swims to the rescue, which is when Simon spots the fish swimming their way. And all of a sudden Simon kicks Matt away, pushing him straight to the fish. Then starts swimming for his life while his brother is getting ripped apart. Matt tries fighting back, but it's no use, and it finally drags him underwater, making 4 down with 2 more to go. Now, at some point later, we find Kitty posted up on top of the flipped over boat, and it looks like she managed to hide while the fish went after the boys. Okay, and that's when she notices Johnny's body floating nearby. Okay, she grabs the necklace as a way to keep her promise from before, but then as soon as she does, the fish comes back and takes Johnny under, which finally makes her realize this magic necklace must actually work. Okay, deciding to trust it, she carefully lowers herself in, starts swimming for shore, and sure enough, she makes it there without getting eaten. But it ain't over yet, baby, because the minute she hits the shallow water, freaking Simon comes popping up behind her. She starts scrambling to get away, knowing he fed Matt to the fish. And when he notices the necklace, he starts thinking her and Johnny must have set them up. Realizing he's lost it, Kitty starts trying to trick him by acting like she really loves him instead. And for a minute, it almost works. But as Simon pulls her in for a kiss, he starts refusing to let go. And all of a sudden, he shoves Kitty under and holds her down until she drowns, making 5 down with only 1 more to go. So it looks like Simon actually got away with it, right? Well, not exactly. Because as he's standing there like a weirdo, holding on to Kitty's body, he suddenly finds himself getting lit up by somebody's headlights. Looking over, he sees an old man step into the light. It's Johnny's buddy, old Mr. Parks, and he seems pretty suspicious about what happened to everybody else. Now, thinking he can fool him, Simon starts acting like he's just some terrified survivor who barely escaped. But the old man is not buying it. And even when he starts yapping about the giant fish, Gramps seems like he's heard it all before. Which is when he pulls out Zeke's GoPro. You know, the one from his severed arm. Turns out he found it when he washed up on the beach, and he already watched the entire thing. So he knows exactly what went down in the lake. And he's not about to let this dude Simon off the hook so easily. That's when Gramps whips out the blicky and starts telling Broski to go back in. Simon's like, no, please don't. And he fires off a warning shot. But when Simon still doesn't move, bam, he just puts one straight in his leg. He gets up and starts trying to run for it, but the old man just keeps blasting until he backs up all the way into the lake. And as soon as he's far enough from the shore, the catfish pulls up and takes a chomp out of his side. Somehow he actually gets away, but not for long. And the old man just stands there watching as the fish drags him back in, putting an end to Simon once and for all. So in the end, I guess that makes 6 humans down with no survivors. Meaning this might be the first time we've seen a fish pull off a squad wipe. But if there's one lesson we can all learn from what happened here, it's that if somebody tries giving you a magic necklace for protection, man, just take it and don't ask questions. Because it's better to be safe than sorry. Wow, of all the fish movies in the world, that was certainly the fishiest. And normally this is when I say if you guys would have done anything differently in the video, let me know what that is in the comments below. But I think just about everybody who watches this video is gonna have a comment to write down there, because holy crap, what a cast of characters. If you liked the video, give it a like, subscribe, and check out that How to Beat playlist for more videos just like this one. I'm Ben. We'll see you in the next video, and have a damn good day.
Leaders of Democratic women's groups call Abdul El Sayed's attacks on Haley Stevens sexist. That's what El Sayed does. He called Michelle Obama's work uninspired and ineffectual. Let's reject Abdul El Sayed's sexist attacks.
The Icon G2 ratchet lineup just got even bigger. New styles, expanded sizes, and tool truck quality at prices that make sense. Icon G2 ratchets, only Harbor Freight.
I need my whatchamacallit mirror. So I can like see from you should record it. I gotta post it. I'm not recording that today. That's my main concern. Here I go. You get eat.
Death, a mysterious force is hunting them down one by one. Alright, this is freaky, but we've actually figured out a new death clue here. The last picture you take of someone before they die has a clue in it of what will cause their death. If I were them, I would try to use this to our advantage.
Y'all watched this already? Oh no, I think I fell asleep. Why was that? I ain't gonna lie, that newest Final Destination movie, bro. Crazy.
And sure.
Crazy.
Quality brand. These parts we don't pay big brand markups.
So we say
Darn tootin'.
Differences that save you money. It's an Aldi thing.
Today, you don't mind the wait. You've got the all-new Caesars Palace Online Casino. Hundreds of your favorite games from your favorite casino. And every play earns with Caesars Rewards. Download and sign up today. Caesars Palace Online Casino.
Sure enough, there he is. He's been thinking it all over, wondering about the afterlife and stuff. But after a quick pep talk from Clear, he decides to lock in. He can't go home now that the feds are after him, so Clear says that he can stay at her dad's cabin. But now the boys have some questions, and Carter wants to know who's gonna be next. Alex doesn't want to say anything, because he thinks that'll only make things worse, but that makes Carter think that it must be him. And suddenly this dude slams on the gas and starts picking up speed. He starts flying through traffic and running stop signs with everybody else trapped in the car, and as they're begging him to chill, daddy, he takes his hands off the wheel and starts flooring it straight towards a giant gas truck. They end up barely missing it by just a couple inches, but this dude Carter's showing no signs of slowing down. While this is happening, Alex sees a vision of a train in the back window. Well, you'll never guess what's around the corner. Train tracks. And that's when Carter finally decides to stop. Right on cue, the bell starts ringing, meaning Choo Choo Charles is about to be there any second. So everyone starts getting out of the car, but Carter's all like, nah, I got something to prove here. So he sits there waiting until the train's right on top of them, but goes to start the car at the last second. But guess what? Now it won't start. And when he reaches for the door, the car locks him in. His seatbelt won't come off either, and now bro is really starting to panic. So Alex rushes over and starts trying to pull him out, until finally, boom, the train absolutely smacks the car into next week. But the good news is, Alex just saved this dude's life. But while everyone's still thinking that Carter is up next, the train kicks up a sharp piece of metal that flies over and cuts Billy's head off, making 4 down with 3 more to go. Shocked, they all start wondering what happened, and Alex realizes that after he saved Carter, death must have skipped him and moved on to whoever was next. But after Billy, Alex was next in line. And to make matters worse, the cops are going to be there any minute, so they decide that they better dip to the cabin before they get caught. Well, I guess you could say my boy Billy really lost his head in the argument, am I right? They probably should have realized death doesn't stick to the script, but now they know the order, and they have a guy who can literally see the future. The fact that they just got caught slipping yet again is pretty embarrassing, I'm not gonna lie. So at this point, there's really only one thing I can say. Congratulations, gang, because you done f***ed up. Now, when I say everyone messed up here, that's actually not true, because sure, Clear could have started believing Alex sooner, but at least she got the squad together and actually came up with some productive ideas. So Clear, we cool, but everybody else, that's a different story. Like first, we got the homie Billy, and I think it's pretty clear this guy wasn't the smartest cookie, but even still, getting taken out the way he did was just dumb. Like, even if he didn't know Death was about to skip Carter and go straight to him, he still knew that he was somewhere on that list. So, standing a few inches away from a speeding train probably wasn't the best idea. Now, the worst part is, he didn't even get a cool, elaborate demise like his teacher. Nah, Death just called an audible mid-play and smoked him with some random crap. That is just sad. Then we got my dude Alex. Why not just tell everyone the order as soon as he figured it out? Like, what's the point of hiding it if they already know they're on the list? It could only help if everyone knows who's next, and when this dude Carter figured it out by himself, that just made things even worse. So for a guy who's been more happy to cause a whole scene in the past, it's kind of a weird time to switch up and start acting all cagey, I'm just saying. Which brings me to this dude Carter. This dude found out Death itself was after him, and his genuine reaction was to start speeding, running stop signs, basically doing everything he could to rage bait the Grim Reaper into taking him early. And then out of all the things he could have done, he stops right on some freaking train tracks just to prove a point. That's literally insane. So yeah, it's pretty safe to say that as a group, they really dropped the ball on this one. And when somebody in the squad's out here moving like an idiot, that's how you know that y'all done up. Now at this point, Alex isn't taking any chances, so at the cabin he starts going around trying to death-proof the whole place. Like, he's over here duct taping stuff to walls, eating nasty canned meat so he doesn't choke, but just when he thinks he's got it all covered, the wind knocks over a fishing pole that hooks onto the closet, and as Alex runs over to shut it, a knife almost comes through and hits him in the face. He looks down to see a bunch of rusty fishing hooks all over the floor, making him think that Death was trying to give him tetanus. So he starts shouting at the air like, "Ha! Miss me again, fool!" So back at home, Claire looks out her window and sees the feds still posted outside. She's getting worried about Alex being out there all alone, but the agents promise that they'll keep him safe. So she finally caves and decides to tell them where he is. Meanwhile, Alex comes across an article about the crash with a photo of the two girls who asked him to change seats. And that's when it hits him. In real life, he never actually moved, which means if they actually stayed on the plane, Clear would have been in front of him. Just then, the lamp goes out, so Alex starts trying to light it again, but as he's trying to get a spark, he sees a vision of a bolt of lightning. And that makes him realize that Clear is about to get zapped. But just as he's heading out, frickin' 12 pulls up and starts chasing after him, leaving him no choice but to hop in a damn canoe and start paddling across the lake. Back at Clear's, a huge lightning bolt strikes the power line outside, sending a bunch of electricity shooting all over the yard, but her dog Fritz is still out there, so Clear has to run outside and save him. Alex makes it right across the lake before the feds catch up, so he gets up and starts dipping through the woods with the cops still chasing after him. He ends up tripping and falling down a hill where he almost goes face first straight into a sharp branch, but he manages to lose the cops for now.
You've heard a lot of noise.
What is dividing?
Here's something different, the truth. I'm Haley Stevens, and I'm so proud to be from Michigan. Growing up here meant being surrounded by people who work hard and never give up. I know things are tough right now, and that Washington is a complete mess. Some people just want to yell about it. I'm fighting to fix it. Michiganders need someone who stays focused through the noise and gets the job done. That's why I approve this message.
When life knocks you down, we help you. At Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, we never stop supporting you with access to the care you need, so you can keep moving forward.
CJ Barrymore's. Our thrill ride makes your heart race and your spirit soar. We are the premier entertainment destination. Perfect for birthday celebrations, corporate events, and gathering with family and friends. CJ Barrymore's, the daytime, nighttime, good time place.
But even though he got the order wrong, I still have a plan. Now that he knows Clear is actually up next, that means he's more or less safe to a certain extent, and thanks to his vision, he knows that Death's planning to zap her with electricity. So first, he needs to find Clear and warn her to stay away from anything electric. Because once she knows the threat, she can focus on keeping herself safe. Then, since it's technically not his time yet, Alex can save her dog Fritz, and we've got that base covered. Now, if I was Clear, then I'm staying put inside the house, because that's the safest place you can be during a lightning storm. But we know Death likes to get creative, so next I'm putting on some rubber boots, rubber gloves, and a rubber rain jacket. Pretty much anything she's got that's made of rubber, because if you didn't know, rubber is actually super resistant to electricity, so that should keep her safe from any sparks that might get in the house. Now, once Clear is safe, then all they gotta do is prevent Alex's death, and hopefully, after it goes through everyone, that might finally break the curse. Clear comes running over just as another bolt of electricity sends the clothesline flying straight at her, but while she's trying to help her buddy Fritz, the clothesline blows over and pokes a hole in the pool, sending water splashing all around them. She tells Fritz to get out of there as she jumps out the water, launching off a wheelbarrow just as the electricity would have taken her out, but she grabs onto the side of the house and jumps inside through the bedroom window. Everything electronic starts exploding all around her as she books it towards the garage and hops in the car, but the door won't open. So she throws it in reverse and tries to blast straight through. Only just when she's about to escape, the power line hits the hood, killing the battery and leaving her trapped with nowhere to run. That's when Alex finally pulls up on the scene, and he tells Clear to stay in the car since the rubber tires are actually protecting her. He's got to get this power line off the whip, so he picks up a shovel and starts trying to knock it away. But the electricity knocks the shovel out of his hands, which sends a frickin' propane tank flying straight under the car, and at the same time the sparks light up a trail of turpentine, setting the whole car on fire. And Alex decides that there's only one thing left to do. So after saying his goodbyes, my guy runs up and pulls the power line off with his bare hands, sending him flying back into the garage just as Clear dives for safety. The minute it's over, Clear and the agents run up to check on him, and at first it looks like Alex didn't make it, but this story's not over yet. The next thing we see, it's 6 months later, and who do we find getting off a plane but our good friend Alex, Carter, and Clear? It looks like they finally took that trip to Paris after all, but somewhere in the background a street musician starts playing John Denver, and that's when Alex says that there's been something on his mind. You see, in this case, nobody actually stepped in, so for all he knows, he might still be in danger. Well, that's when he finally notices the song, and as he looks around, he realizes they're completely surrounded by all kinds of dangerous stuff. So he decides that he's gonna meet them back at the hotel, but as he gets up to walk away, Claire sees a vision of a bus in the window. She stops him, just as he almost walks into the street, but he's not safe yet, because the bus ends up taking out a light post that flies up and knocks down the cafe's humongous sign. And it almost squashes Alex until Carter runs up and tackles him out of the way. There's just one problem though. If Carter just saved Alex, then the loop just reset. The sign comes flying straight back at Carter as the movie cuts to black. So in the end, I guess that does make 5 down with only 2 lucky survivors, or technically 292 if you count everyone who stayed on the plane. But as for Alex and Clear, it looks like they'll never really be safe. So if there's one lesson we can all take away from this, it's that death always wins in the end.
Nobody should be getting out of this alive, but you've just cheated death, and now it's coming back to finish the job. Everyone around you is dying in the most gruesome and impossible ways because it can use anything to kill you, and you'll be next if you don't figure out how to stop it. But it's going to take everything you have to stay alive. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat Final Destination 2. These 4 college students never had a chance. Kimberly and her friends are going to Daytona for spring break with a bag full of weed and expecting to have the time of their lives. But as soon as they get on the highway, they've sealed their fate. Now, none of them are looking for it, but they've been given plenty of fair warning that something bad is going to happen, and the signs are everywhere. She turns on the radio and Highway to Hell starts playing. Not a good omen to start a road trip. She sees her engine light turn on because her car is leaking transmission fluid, but she ignores it. They pass a bus full of jocks chanting "Pile," and they're all from the same school as the original survivors from the first movie. This guy next to them is chugging a beer, and then there's this kid slamming 2 toy cars against each other. Even for a kid, this is not normal behavior. But if you learned anything from the first film, there are no coincidences. Okay, it all might seem like something you typically ignore, but we need to be smarter than this if we want to survive this car ride. Because the concept of death hunting people down has been all over the news. They've all seen it on TV and heard it on the radio. It also happens to be the 1-year anniversary of that crash. So if I'm seeing all this weird stuff going on around me, I'm not shrugging it off. I'm getting spooked right the f*** out and pulling the car over. But it's too late because things are about to get really ugly. In front of them, a police officer spills coffee all over his lap and is distracted as these massive wooden logs break out of their chains and fly out onto the road. The cop looks up just in time to see how he dies, as his head is smashed through the back of the car. This is one of the most brutal deaths I've ever seen, and it only gets worse. There's a massive pileup. A motorcyclist falls and gets crushed by his own bike, and another driver's water bottle gets lodged under the brake pedal and gets wrecked by a garbage truck. Cars are exploding into absurdly massive fireballs, and the college students in the red SUV flip over. Kid here sees a man being burned alive and screaming for help, only to get run over by a semi-truck, and it's headed right for her next as it slams into the car and kills her instantly. But then she's back in the car with her friends like nothing ever happened. What the hell is going on? Okay, it's natural to panic, but it's also a waste of valuable time. At this point, there's no denying that we all just died. And we're 7 minutes and 5 seconds away from dying again in a massive pileup if we get on the highway. Now, the friends don't remember anything, and I'm not wasting time trying to convince them. I'm turning the car around and getting us to safety. But this girl doesn't do that. She takes it to another level of intelligence and tries to save everyone. And that kind of selflessness in a stressful situation shows high-level thinking. But there are two problems with this so far. First, as long as you're still on the road, you're not really safe. This is a death trap on steroids, so if it's gonna throw giant logs and exploding cars at me, I would pull the handbrake, lock the car, and run to the hills and out of harm's way. Secondly, stopping everyone from dying is actually the worst thing she could do. We'll find out why later, and she has no reason to suspect this, but if death has a plan for everyone, is it wise to intervene with so many people's destinies? The girl spots the logging truck passing and yells at the cop to stop it, but it's too late. The sprawling mayhem of death unfolds just like in her vision, except this time, they're watching from the sidelines. In a state of shock, she turns and sees the number 180 on a roadside and realizes this too isn't a coincidence. Just like the survivors of the Flight 180 plane crash, she's cheated death, and now it's going to hunt her down too. She's so overwhelmed that she doesn't notice a truck headed straight for her. The cop pulls her out of danger, but her friends are crushed. That spring break is canceled. Okay, 180 is an important number because this isn't the first time it's shown up. It was seen as both a warning and a murder weapon to the previous survivors, so I would take this number seriously because wherever it shows up, people start dying. It might seem superstitious, but there's enough evidence to support this. If it's in your face, it's probably a warning, and you should get the hell out. Later, all the survivors are taken to the police station, where the cop asks the girl how she predicted the accident, and she explains that she had a premonition, just like the kid who survived the plane crash a year ago. Everyone else is fed up with superstition, and they all go. The girl's dad arrives to take her home, and as they leave, the cop gives her this look like a small part of her wants to believe her. Alright, as a cop, he has resources that can help them, like blocking off potential death traps from the public, or calling a nearby backup to save someone's life based on her premonitions. I'd want to make sure I didn't leave the building until he was completely convinced it was real. If we're gonna achieve death, we'll need all the help we can get. Later, one of the survivors comes back home. He cleans up a bit and starts cooking dinner, but gets distracted by a wind blowing through the room, knocking an H into his noodles. Jack is already trying to tell him how he's going to die. He pulls out some diamond-studded jewelry he bought, but the microwave starts to spark, and he drops his ring into the sink. With the finest way of intelligence, he sticks his hand into the hole and can't get it out, which is no surprise. Behind him, the skillet starts burning. He doesn't know what to do, so he slaps the flames with a cloth, knocking the skillet to the floor and spreading the fire throughout his apartment. Okay, where do I begin with this guy? Beating on the flames with a cloth isn't panning out. Now, there's a mug here, and he's standing in front of a sink. The first instinct is to use this mug to douse the flames with water, but this would actually make it worse, because water and oil don't mix, and it would splash the grease, causing the fire to spread. Baking soda is the best solution, because it releases carbon dioxide, which suffocates the flames, but there's something about this guy that tells me he doesn't have any baking soda. His only option is to eliminate oxygen from the fire using a lid or a plate. He'll have to throw it, which is not ideal, but it's better than doing this. He finally rips his hand out from the sink. It's time to bail, but the window's suddenly shut. He smashes through and runs down the fire escape, nearly avoiding an explosion. He pulls the ladder down and lands on his feet. This guy really is lucky. He's just escaped death like 4 times in a row. But then he slips on the spaghetti he tossed out, and the ladder comes down straight through his eye. If only he could see the irony. That night, all the survivors watch a news report about the guy's death and get worried. The girl was right. Something bad was going to happen, and this cycle of death isn't over. The girl decides to do some digging on that sole survivor of Flight 180 and discovers that she committed herself to a mental institution. What happened to her? The next day, she drives it to meet her, and this survivor woman is not taking any chances. She has the nurse tell all visitors to remove every sharp object before entering, and even makes them check their fingernails. The survivor explains that death will hunt them down according to the order they died in the premonition, but skip over anyone who gets saved, like Kimberly here did. But that doesn't make any sense to the girl. Her friends died last in her vision, so they shouldn't have died first afterwards. Death is killing them in reverse order. The loner girl doesn't want anything to do with this and refuses to help. It might seem like she beat death, but all she did was trap herself in a prison at paranoia. Okay, apart from being a total shut-in, admitting yourself to an institution is a great idea. It's got padded cells, 3 square meals, and it takes as much risk out of living as possible. But this would cost a fortune, with average admission prices being as much as $10,000 for a 2-week stay. With that kind of money, you could just death-proof your own house, and here's how. A death-proof bunker first needs to be subterranean. It protects from weather, falling objects, electricity, and much more. It needs sealable entrances like a spaceship, so that any risk can be closed off if death finds a way in. The walls need to be lined with steel and concrete to protect from explosions. I place all electronics behind tempered glass, and they must be remotely operated, including video monitors with CCTV showing all above ground activity, as well as your food preparation. Everything must be padded, and no fire or sharp objects or flammable gases are permitted within 10 meters. It's basically Magneto's prison cell, but instead of blocking metal, it's blocking death. When the girl gets back home, the cop is there and invites her to a meeting at his place with the other survivors. He's done research about Flight 180 and the freak deaths, and now he's more convinced than ever that they all need to work together to beat this thing. But she suddenly sees a swarm of pigeons flying in Laster's reflection and realizes this is a sign. This kid and his mother are next on death's list, and they're going to be killed by a flock of birds. This should be interesting. At the orthodontist's office, this kid gets seated in the dentist chair, and seriously, danger is absolutely everywhere. All these canisters full of gases that could poison him, this massive needle full of anesthesia, or these power tools that could rip his mouth into bloody chunks. Now, real talk, I could be practically kidnapped and go to the dentist. So if there's talk of death hunting me down, I'm not going within 10 miles of a dentist's office. Stay the away. This is all a part of Death's elaborate plan, and it starts with this little fish. The suction caused the aquarium's pipe to leak, and the water sprays out onto a power outlet. It heads for the mother, but pigeons start crashing into the windows, and she gets up to see what's going on. The noise interrupts the dentist, who goes to check out the ruckus, but when the outlet starts sparking, the oxygen tank shuts off, and the kid starts feeling the effects of pure nitrous oxide. The plastic fish falls straight into his mouth. He's too gassed up to remove it and begins to suffocate. Luckily, the assistant finds him just in time to pull it out, looking confused as ever. He got lucky here, but it's not over yet. Leaving the office, they see the cop and the girl running towards them, but it's too late. The kid sees a flock of pigeons and chases them. The birds startle the crane operator, who bumps his controls and sends a pane of glass falling to the ground, squishing the kid into mush.
Why are Republicans spending money in the Democratic
window glass that heavy, squish the kid.
LCF repeatedly endorsed defunding the police, then lied about it until CNN exposed him. He has a history of disrespecting women, including Michelle Obama and Gretchen Whitmer. LCF even expressed sympathy for a terrorist who attacked a synagogue full of children. Republicans are meddling because Abdul El-Sayed can't win the general election. UDP is responsible for the content of this ad.
You don't pay big brand markups when you buy Aldi brand.
It's an Aldi thing.
Relieve flu-like symptoms with oscillococcinum. It's nature's #1 flu medicine. The tiny pellets dissolve in your mouth with no water needed. The flu can strike anytime. That's why oscillococcinum is easy to take wherever you go. Be ready at the first sign of flu-like symptoms.
My team and I were wasting time managing my podcast across multiple different platforms until Superhuman Docs brought everything into one place. For a long time, my biggest challenge was turning a good podcast idea into an organized production plan. That's why I started using Superhuman Docs from the makers of Grammarly. Superhuman Docs is more than just a doc. It has AI built into every part of the doc and
Alright, this is tragic, but it was also entirely preventable because this guy was close enough to save his life. This glass pane was falling from a height of about 10 floors, as we can see it from the dentist's office. That's roughly 35 meters high, and with the acceleration of gravity at 9.8 meters per second, he had about 3 seconds before it hit the ground. It's not much, but he was so close that there was time to push this kid out of the way. I wouldn't do it, but somebody should have. 2 deaths now. It feels like there's nothing she can do. That's when the loner girl appears, finally brave enough to step outside after a year of hiding. She wants to help, but death has changed its rules, and there's only one man who can tell them what they need to know. She takes them to a funeral home to meet an old acquaintance, the Mortician, the man who first told the loner girl about Death's design, and now she's back looking for a way to beat Death once again. The Mortician tells them only new life can truly defeat Death. They bring someone into the world that wasn't meant to be, then this will force Death to start anew, and he warns the girl to follow the signs. Okay, we have a new rule, and this one is great. If new life beats death, it means women need to have a baby to keep them alive. Now, I'm not advocating for a survivor orgy here, but if they value their lives, they better find a partner and get busy, because if they can avoid death for 9 months, then they'll be free from death's curse, and be able to live through a different kind of curse. Apparently. The group stops at a gas station, and the loner girl gets pissed off, confronting a kid smoking near the pumps. This idiot is putting everyone's lives at risk. Except, what are they even doing here? If my life is at risk everywhere I turn, this is easily one of the worst places to be. They're literally standing above 20,000 gallons of gas. These places have a lot of safety features to prevent the worst, but I'm not putting this past Death to find a way of making this all below the kingdom come. If we need a gas, I'm hiring someone to take the car and fill it up for me, and this guy can smoke all he wants because I won't even be there. But then this girl suddenly has a vision of her crashing a white van into a lake and drowning. That detail reminds the cop of the pregnant woman who was driving a white delivery van on the day of the premonition. From what the Mortician told them, they realized if she gives birth, they might be able to disrupt Death's design. They start over with a clean slate. Putting on an APB, he's able to figure out who she is, and hopefully, she'll be caught by the time they're done with their meeting. Later that night, all the survivors meet up at the cop's apartment. Now, if it's me, I'm not letting anyone out of my sight. If someone dies, another will be next until it gets to me, and I'm not taking any chances. Personally, I try locking everyone down in the safest environment possible for 9 months if I have to, but I imagine this idea won't be popular among the group, so communication is the next best thing. Having a Death Cheater's hotline for any warnings or premonitions could go a long way in delaying my death and everyone else's. But even with all his evidence, the motorcyclist calls BS. He doesn't believe any of this and wants to leave. Grabbing his coat, he drops his keys and then launches the ball into the air, hitting a winch that's the kayak swinging into the loner girl. She dodges out of the way at the last moment, but she should have seen this coming. Death has been wanting her dead for a long time. We would be missing all these signs if it wasn't for her, and we need to keep her alive because she's essential to our survival. The group will improve their chances if they pair up, sleep in shifts, and take down every loose end in the room. Now, sleeping is when you're at your most vulnerable, but 24 hours without it results in a full 10-point drop in your IQ. I'm gonna need those 10 points if I'm evading death traps. Meanwhile, the cops' plan to find the pregnant woman has paid off. He made sure she was going to be on lockdown to keep her safe, and reported her van as stolen, so she's going to jail for grand theft auto. It's a ridiculous plan, but effective. The stoner makes a mess in the closet and notices something weird about these shadows. They look like a man with hooks. It's a sign. In the elevator, a man is holding a basket of prosthetic arms with hooks. Her phone rings as she drops it, but when she picks it up to answer, her hair gets caught on a hook. When they reach the lobby, she tries to run out, but her neck gets caught in between the doors. No matter how hard these two men try, they can't pull it open, and the elevator begins to ascend, taking the poor woman with it. The workaholic here and the loner girl spot her and try to help her as much as they can, but the elevator doors finally crush her neck and sever her head clean off. Okay, once you're stuck like this, there's not a lot you can do, and pressing buttons or panicking won't be enough to counter Death's plan. Now, the door's opening is too narrow to pull apart with enough force and leverage, so I would try using the prosthetic arms to wedge between the door to pry it open. The average difference in width between your neck and your head is 7 centimeters, so it might give just enough for her head to pass through. The motorcyclist comes running back into the apartment. After staring Death in the face, he's now a born-again believer. He steals the cop's gun and puts it to his head, planning to die on his own terms. But no matter how many times he tries, it won't fire. With 6 perfect bullets in the chamber, these are impossible odds. And it means it wasn't his turn to die. Okay, if you thought things were hopeless, this should put the nail in the coffin, because it won't even let us kill ourselves. It has complete power over us. But if things got desperate and we decided enough was enough, how would we end it? Death can play with mechanics, but it doesn't change the laws of physics. A jump from a bridge would kill you, but maybe a gust of wind or a bird distracts you on the jump, and your clothes get caught on a nail. Don't underestimate this thing. So I would go where only I can control my life, breath by breath, and that is underwater. Death wouldn't be able to intervene by magically giving you oxygen. I hope it would never come to this, but the ultimate escape is to tie a brick around the ankle, and it's a bon voyage. Stuck in jail, the woman tries to convince the officer to let her go, but the man won't budge. That's when her water breaks, and the dude is panicking. She demands to be taken to a hospital, and he's not going to win this argument. In the car, the group learns that every single one of them has actually cheated death once before, and they're all connected to survivors of Flight 180. The motorcyclist could have been killed by a student if he hadn't transferred to Mount Abraham after a teacher died in an explosion. The cop would have died in a shootout if he hadn't been called away to check up on a train wreck where a kid got his head chopped off, and the driver was on a bus trip that could have led to her death, but on the way there, her bus ran over a girl. The stoner would have died in a collapsed building if he hadn't been distracted by the jock getting crushed by a falling sign. And the girl would have died in a carjacking if she hadn't watched a news report about a kid who hung himself. Okay, this literally changes everything we know about death's design. When we cheat death, it's not just affecting us, it's affecting everyone we encounter by proxy through the butterfly effect. This basically creates a global pandemic of freak accidents because it's changing the course of history in real time. So I would actually consider helping make sure death gets its kills the way originally planned. We should have moved the car off the road and let everyone pass, right into the afterlife. Because it limits the butterfly effect of death playing catch up, and therefore, it literally kills less people. Meanwhile, the pregnant woman and the officer are headed to the hospital and straight into the other survivors. One of the wheels blows out and the two cars luckily avoid running into each other, but sends them off-road and right into danger. They crash through a pile of hay bales, knocking over a fence and reversing into these pipes that almost go through the driver's head. She's lucky to be alive, but the motorcyclist has been impaled. He can't breathe, and the driver's leg is trapped beneath a log. Just a side note, none of these people should be driving at all. Road accidents are far more likely than any one of these death traps. Over 1 million people are killed in car accidents in the US every year, while bicyclists are less likely to get you killed or run over, at only 2% of vehicle deaths. So this dramatically cuts down the risk in traveling. It won't solve everything, but it's definitely an improvement. Seeing the accident, the other cop wants to help, but the pregnant woman stops. Her baby is more important. He calls an emergency service for them and bails. The police finally arrive on the scene and the motorcyclist is taken into an ambulance. Clear Hair tells them to be careful of anything that could be dangerous or go wrong. Voltage gauges, overdoses, potholes, puddles. Man, she thinks of everything. A news van comes speeding to the accident site and almost hits this kid. It's only thanks to the stoner pulling him out of the way that he survived, but it's all a part of death's next trap. The news van backs up into some rocks, puncturing its fuel tank, and begins leaking gasoline that spills its way through a broken pipe. The firefighters begin to break open the car door, but trigger the airbags, which throw the woman's head straight into a broken pipe. Okay, they shouldn't be this surprised. Everyone left her inside even when they knew who was next in Death's kill order. I would have at least cut the sharp pole that's sticking out of her headrest before anything else could go wrong. They're being way too casual about all the dangers they're exposed to. Her dead hand drops the cigarette, and a strong breeze sends her rolling into a pipe and lighting the trail with gasoline, and the van explodes, hurling a barbed wire fence post through the stoner's body, cutting him in half. Meanwhile, lying in a hospital bed, the motorcyclist listens to a news report about the driver dying and realizes he's next. The doors suddenly slam shut, the ventilation closes, and the tubes to the oxygen tank break. He can see it all happening, but he's too weak to escape. The group finally arrives at the hospital and split up, the loner girl going to find the motorcyclist while the other two look for the pregnant woman. After a dramatic labor, the baby is born, and they all celebrate, but I'm not believing a second of it, because death doesn't give up this easily. Kimberly here has another vision of the accident and realizes the pregnant woman was never supposed to die in the pileup. But what does that mean for her premonition about the lake? She remembers someone with bloody hands was driving the car. The loner girl goes to find the motorcyclist, and just before she opens the door, Kimberly over here has a horrible realization. Just as the death trap in the motorcyclist's room goes off, the life support cord gets yanked out, igniting the trapped gas and causes a massive explosion that takes out the motorcyclist and the loner girl. I have to admit, I did not see that coming. The girl sees that she has bloody hands and realizes the premonitions are about her. It's all happening just like in her vision, including a white van parking outside the hospital. She spots a newspaper clipping about a drowning victim who got a new life after surviving and realizes she has to die to save them and tells the cop to get the doctor. She jumps into the van and accelerates into the nearby lake. The cop runs after her and dives in to help her, but he can't open the door and she blacks out. She wakes up in the hospital as the doctor resuscitates her. she died, which means she's cheated death again, and this time for good. Okay, this risky little experiment was totally worth it, because now any and all survivors can follow in her footsteps. I'd use the defibrillators to end it, and having friends shock me back, like the Flatliners did. Later, the two of them have lunch with her dad, along with another family. And the final disc kid over here was the one who almost got hit by the news event. His parents note it was a miracle he didn't die. And the two survivors have a sudden realization and see the kid get blown up by the barbecue. They might have avoided death, but it's still hungry for more souls. You just survived a horrific roller coaster accident, and now death is hunting you down. There's no way to escape it, and it won't stop its murderous rampage until every single survivor is brutally killed. Anything can be a murder weapon or a death trap, and you'll have to do the most savage things if you want to survive. When you know how you're going to die and nothing can stop it, what do? I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat Final Destination 3. This is the deadliest place in America. These high schoolers are having fun at an amusement park, and Wendy here is capturing the last moments of their senior year before graduation. The girl checks her camera to see how the photos are coming out and notices something weird. In the picture, the sign reads "High Die," but when she looks back up, the light is still on. She can feel that something is off, but has no idea that she's just seen a premonition of her own future. Going around the theme park, she takes photos of her other classmates playing carnival games. These two girls are having fun at the water gun shootout, and Lewis here is killing it as a strongman. But the girl can't shake the feeling that with every photo, a bad omen is following them. Her friends get in line for the Devil's Bite roller coaster, and Wendy here starts to get nervous. Her boyfriend reassures her nothing bad is going to happen, and convinces her to rejoin the group. But as they walk in, she feels like her life is in danger. They reach the platform, and this girl is surrounded by signs of death. But when she finds out they're assigned to the front seat, she panics, begging her friends to all sit in the back. Nobody wants to join her, but they decide to settle this fairly and toss a coin. Kevin here loses the flip and gets stuck with Wendy to sit in the back. Okay, normally roller coasters are incredibly safe, and statistically, you have a 1 in 750 million chance of dying on a ride. Having said that, this is not a normal roller coaster, and there were signs to tell us we shouldn't get on. The first clue was the missing letter in the photo spelling the word die. When she was in line, the pillars that hold the ride together were shaking loose and looked very unstable. When she approaches the cars, she walks up to gate 6. This guy cuts in front of them and tries to steal their seats, but that makes 3 people at the gate, and 3 sixes is the number of the beast. They move further back, but their seats are stolen by a bunch of underage kids who aren't even allowed to be here. These all might seem innocent, but with this many strange coincidences, I would start taking my superstitions a little more seriously. Now, even though an accident is statistically rare, that doesn't mean it couldn't happen to you. For over a decade, Action Park in Vernon, New Jersey was the most dangerous amusement park in U.S. history, with regular injuries and even tragic deaths from their rides, and nearly all were a result of poor safety standards and maintenance. With that in mind, this girl is right to be concerned. She's being peer pressured into doing something she doesn't feel safe with. And honestly, there's no shame in telling your friends you're going to sit this one out. It might just be the smartest thing you'll ever do. They get in the car, and the restraints come down, trapping them all in, as the operator pushes start and the roller coaster begins to take off. But none of them know that hydraulic fluid is leaking out of the cars. The ride picks up speed, racing down the tracks, but when they reach the loop, everything starts to go wrong. This guy's video camera gets knocked out of his hand and falls through the air, but gets caught on the track below. The roller coaster train drives over it, breaking the hydraulics and turning their screams of joy into absolute fear. The restraints suddenly unlock, and they hold on for dear life as the cars go through another loop. The wheels fly off their axles, and the front car gets unhitched, sending the riders tumbling to their deaths. This kid falls out of his seat and manages to catch the side rail as the ride goes through a corkscrew. He loses his grip and flies into the support beam, where he breaks in half and dies. But it's not over for them yet, as a piece of the car slams into the ride and dislodges the tracks. Riding over the broken rail, they go up another loop and stop as they reach the top of the spiral. They hold on for as long as they can, but these two lose their grip and plummet to their deaths, leaving Wendy and Kevin here as the only 2 passengers left. Okay, if they were looking for a thrill, they've definitely gotten their money's worth. Despite all odds, they actually have a chance here to save themselves before they end up like their friends. Since the crash has caused the ride to lose its momentum, the cars on the roller coaster are heavy enough to stabilize them in position. Since they are already stuck in place, small movements won't be enough to give it momentum to fall back down the tracks. Now, fortunately, these shoulder straps here are still strong enough to hold their full weight. So instead of hanging from them, we should stand on them with our feet and turn ourselves upright. Once we're standing the right way up, I would try to climb over the car and onto the rails of the roller coaster, because we can wait there to be rescued. But as long as we're hanging upside down in our seats, we have no control over what happens. I would try to take off my jacket and wrap it around the wheels in a figure eight, tying the roller coaster down to the tracks. It might seem small, but it's going to make a huge difference because there's no momentum here to push the cars forward. So the whole thing could easily be stabilized by my jacket because the wheels wouldn't be able to start moving enough to gain inertia. Working together, they rock the train back and forth until they finally come loose. But Kevin can't get back in his seat in time and gets torn in half by a pole, leaving Wendy here the last person alive. As the train hits the loose rail, she's thrown out of her seat and falls headfirst onto the tracks below, but she doesn't die. Wendy here suddenly finds herself in tears, sitting back in the car moments before the ride will take off. Realizing what's about to happen, she screams at the technicians not to push the button. Security steps out to see what's going on, and they let her out of the car. She's having a total breakdown and tells them she had a vision where all the riders died in a horrible accident, but nobody believes her. Lewis here is upset that she's interrupted the ride and thinks this is just a desperate attempt to get attention. Kevin here steps up to defend her and they get into a fight as others nearby join in. The security manages to break it up and throws them all off the ride, leaving her boyfriend here stuck in his seat. Okay, this is some serious voodoo magic. There's no doubt in my mind that what we just saw was a real experience and not a vision. And to save all the passengers here, we need to find a way to completely close down the ride. But you won't get that done by telling them that you saw it all in your head. These guys are just going to think you're high and escort you off the premises. We need to lie through our teeth and say anything necessary, even if it gets us in trouble, because otherwise 17 people will get killed. I would tell them that I personally sabotaged the ride and wanted to die on the roller coaster, but I couldn't go through with it. Nobody in their right mind would let another train onto the tracks if a threat has been made, and any responsible ride operator would take this threat seriously. They would bring in the security as well as the police, and the ride would be forced to close until it was properly investigated. Now, when they question her, they will quickly find out that she doesn't know a damn thing about roller coaster mechanics, and the threat will be dismissed. But this is something I can live with, because as long as me and my friends are not on that ride, we've done our job. Still in shock, Wendy walks towards the exit when she suddenly realizes that her boyfriend is still stuck on the ride. He begs to be let out, but the other passengers start chanting to continue, and the train leaves the station. Wendy here runs back onto the platform and yells at them to stop, but the security jumps on her and she's forced outside. They're startled when they hear people screaming above and look up to see the passengers falling to their deaths. She's devastated by the accident, but she has no idea that this is only the beginning. Okay, this girl had one last chance to save her boyfriend and she blew it. She's the only person here who knows for a fact that everyone on the ride is about to die. So if she doesn't do everything in her power to intervene, it will be 100% her fault. Personally, if I knew what was about to happen, I would shove this guy out of the way and push the stop button. If all you're willing to do is shout at your boyfriend before he dies, then you don't deserve him. Days later, the girl is at school to pick up her diploma and clean out her locker, but she's still tormented by everything that happened. Outside, Kevin catches up to talk with her, but she's in no mood to speak with anyone and gets in the car. He can do nothing to cheer her up, but before she leaves, Kevin admits that he's been looking for answers and has found them. 6 years ago, a class of students were on a trip to Paris when one kid had a vision that the plane was going to blow up. He and his friends were thrown out, and just like her vision of the roller coaster, it all came true. The plane exploded, and months later, they all began dying in freak accidents. She doesn't believe him and drives away, but she'll soon find out that they're both already a part of Death's new plan. Okay, this girl should not be so glib about his research, because right now, he's showing more initiative on finding answers than she is. After what she's been through, any theory, no matter how crazy, needs to be considered, because these events have happened before, and there are plenty of records on these freak accidents. If she took the science seriously enough to research, she would realize death has 5 main rules. Number 1, death kills people in the order they would have died in the premonitions. Number 2, if you save someone's life, death will skip to the next person in the kill order. Number 3, death leaves clues for the survivors to figure out how they're going to die. Number 4, death will not allow you to yourself, and you can't die until it's your turn.
Fatima here. Want to know why I'm voting for Haley Stevens?
Haley Stevens, she was there. She was a critical part of my team that helped the American auto industry come roaring back.
Haley Stevens. She's done the work. She's proven it. So she's got my vote.
When your accounts are scattered, it's hard to see your full financial picture. Count on Intuit Credit Karma to help connect your accounts in one place. The more you connect, the more we show you how to grow your money. Download the app to get started.
Yes! Yes! You want one of my young patties? No.
Do you ever wish wish your closet came with a stylist? Hi, I'm Alana, a stylist at Stitch Fix, and that's basically what we help create. So if you're new to Stitch Fix, here's the easiest way to get started. First, you want to take a style quiz. You'll tell us things like your size, budget, style preferences, and what outfits you're looking for.
Number 5, you can only escape death's design by creating a new life. This is a goldmine of information, and if it were me, I would be trying to learn as many lessons as possible from these past cases, because if all this is true, then 10 people are about to die. Later that day, these two Valley girls walk into the tanning salon to bronze their skin for graduation. The receptionist is in a rush and leaves to answer a phone call, using a bottle of lotion as a door jamb, not knowing that this one act will set 2 more deaths into motion. The girls walk into a tanning room and the blonde puts her drink down on this table while her friend turns up the temperature on the thermostat. Ashley here looks at the salon CDs for music when one of the shelf fixtures pops off the wall. Taking off their clothes, they lay down on the tanning beds and shut the lids as they start jamming out to their music. But they don't realize that the slushing is condensing over a dangerous electrical unit and the circuits begin to smoke. Outside, the door has squeezed out all the lotion in the bottle and it slams shut, leaving no one in the building to help. The voltage climbs, making the temperature rise, and the brunette begins to realize something's wrong. Meanwhile, Wendy's at home looking through her photos of the night her boyfriend died, and she notices he was posing in front of the light at the exact moment the cards are coming down, perfectly aligned over his head. She looks through the rest of the photos and finds an overexposed picture of the Valley girls. It looks like they're on fire, and she gets a feeling that something horrible is about to happen. Wendy tries to call them, but this coat rack in the salon falls over, knocking a plant into the shelf, and it breaks off the wall. Landing on her tanning bed, the blonde girl tries to lift up the cover, but the shelf has trapped them inside. The heat begins to boil their skin, and they scream in pain, alerting the receptionist, but he finds that the back door is jammed shut, and the front door has been locked from the inside. No one's coming to save them, and the tanning beds burst into flames. That's 2 dead, and there are 8 survivors left. Okay, in all honesty, I'm not even sure this is Death's fault, because everything these girls touch turns to and they both could have avoided dying by simply following the rules. First of all, 2 Valley girls in a room full of dangerous electronics with no supervision is never going to end well, and I wouldn't even trust them with a microwave. Secondly, the receptionist definitely should have known better than to leave these girls to operate all this expensive equipment on their own, but he did warn them before leaving not to take their drinks into the room. They pretended to throw it away and didn't respect this man enough to follow his rules. Now, this wooden plank is not difficult to escape from, and Death took it easy on them here. If it's able to fall into the handles, then it must also be possible to take it out. These beds look like they're about 1 meter wide, and the shelf here is only sticking in by a couple of inches at most. All you need to do is nudge the shelf into the other girl's tanning bed and you're free. The fact they didn't figure this out is astounding, and all I can say is, at least they died doing what they love, and now they've got smoking hot bodies to show for it. The next day, a funeral is held for the girls, and the school has gathered to pay their respects. After the service, Kevin finds Wendy at her boyfriend's grave and walks up to see how she's doing. She tells him that ever since they got on the roller coaster, she's felt a presence stalking her wherever she goes, and has found proof that this feeling isn't just a superstition. She shows him the last photo taken of Abraham Lincoln with a line running through his head and the exact place he was shot, and a photo of the Twin Towers that plane shadow predating 9/11. The photos she took at the amusement park are giving them clues to how they will all die, and she admits he was right. She had a vision that saved their lives, and now that they've cheated death, a mysterious force is hunting them down one by one. Alright, this is freaky, but we've actually figured out a new death rule here. The last picture you take of someone before they die has a clue in it of what will cause their death. If I were them, I would try to use this to our advantage. Right now, the clues are difficult to find because it could be anything in the photos, so what we need is a pattern. I would gather the survivors and take as many pictures of them as we can in different situations, because if the rule is true, then we will start to find the same clues in every single photo we take, and we will be able to compare the photos to confirm the patterns. With enough pictures, we will know for sure what's going to kill us, where, and how. Leaving the cemetery, Kevin here tells her that Death is killing them in the order they would have died if they stayed on the roller coaster. And they realize that would mean that Frankie the camera guy would be next, since he was behind the 2 girls on the ride. They pull over into a drive-thru nearby so they can take another look at the photo. There's nothing that stands out, but that's when the girl remembers Frankie was wearing a mud-flap girl necklace that day. This could be the clue that tells them how he's going to die. They pull up to the window to place their order when the drive-thru display suddenly starts glitching out, and Death starts taking control. A semi-truck starts backing into their car, trapping them as the radio cycles through channels and begins to play a song. Panicking, the girl turns around and sees the truck with no driver is headed right for them, but they're trapped on all sides and can't open their doors. The kids have no choice but to kick the windshield out and jump out of the car. The truck slams into the vehicle, and the engine is sent flying into the driver in front of them, blending his skull into bloody mush. Finding a mudflap girl necklace on the ground, the kids realize that the person who just got killed was Frankie, the camera guy. That's another one down, and there are 7 survivors left. Okay, I know this looks bad, but this could have been a lot worse. They escaped with their lives, but they also had a few more options they didn't consider that would have made a difference. I would have tried manipulating the situation to our advantage and used death's own rules to do it. Now, they just figured out that Frankie is going to die next because he was sitting behind the Valley Girls on the roller coaster, but they didn't consider rule number 4, which says that you can't die until it's your turn. With this information, they could have put together that this truck is not intended for them at all, and that with a freak accident in the making, Frankie must be nearby. This means the best way out of this situation is to do absolutely nothing. If we know that we're not going to die until it's our turn, then technically, by staying exactly where we are, the death trap would avoid us and head right for Frankie. Now, if they weren't panicking, they would have realized that there were clues about everything that was going to happen. First, they nearly crashed into a truck on their way to the drive-thru, and since they know that Frankie's sign is a mudflap girl, they should have considered this a warning. Next, the drive-in sign told them that they have no control over what's about to happen. Lastly, the song that played on the radio is called Turn Around, Look at Me. This is word for word all they needed to say to save this guy from imminent death. Now, personally, I would have taken the more direct approach here and rammed into his car to get his attention. He would have turned around mad as hell and would see the truck headed straight for him. Death was giving them all the answers, and instead of listening, they panicked and this guy died. They go to Wendy's house to find out where everyone was sitting on the roller coaster, but there were 2 other kids on the ride and they have no idea who they are. These photos confirm the order everyone will die in, and they need to get to the next student before time runs out. That's when Kevin here realizes that the jock is going to die next at a football training camp for the state's team, the Sultans. She reminds him there were pictures of them at the amusement park too, but he doesn't want to see how he dies. The thought terrifies him, and he refuses to look at his photo. Okay, we should definitely look at our own photos. These pictures are a one-time only get-out-of-death-free card, and if you're not willing to use them, then you're an idiot. But there is a logical reason to wait before looking. These pictures have become like a Schrodinger's cat experiment, because as soon as they look at the photo, it will lock in the cause of death. That's not necessarily a good thing, because if we know how someone else dies and intervene in death's design by saving someone's life, then you might not die the same way because you've altered the future. This makes your own photo useless because it will no longer give you clues for how you're going to die, but rather for how you were going to die. It would be the smarter move to save Lewis first and then look at the pictures because you'll have a more accurate idea of how death will try to kill you under the new circumstances. The next day, they try to convince Lewis here that he's going to die next, and the guy thinks they've gone crazy, but the girl sees that all the signs are there. There are 2 swords hanging from a plaque above and a stuffed bear standing nearby, both hints that were in the jock's photo. Behind them, a guy breaks off a bear claw that hits another weightlifter in the eye. He drops his bar belt and the impact knocks the swords loose. They swing down and slice through the cables on Lewis's machine, but nothing happens. He brags that death can't touch him, and the jock does one last victory rep, but the weights fold down and crush his head. That's 4 dead, and now there are 6 survivors left. Okay, if there's anybody you don't want to taunt, it's death. I can understand why Lewis here would be skeptical, because the crap that's coming out of their mouths is absolutely insane. Unfortunately, it also happens to be true. If I were him, I would ignore them as well. But that attitude would change really quickly if I witnessed a chain of events that goes from a bear's toenail to sword swinging down and nearly missing my head. It would be enough for me to believe them, and I would thank my lucky stars that I survived. Now, even if he doesn't believe us, there is one thing we could try in order to save his life. If he insists on working out, we can goad him into a safer workout routine. I would tell him that he's a f***ing weak-ass and challenge him to every bodily exercise there is. I'm obviously not going to beat him at it, but it might be enough to trick him into working out away from the dangerous machines and weighted plates, and in a safer area of the gym. That night, they visit the hardware store and warn the goth kids that they're going to die next. Neither of them believe their theory and make fun of them for thinking that death is a conscious being and is hunting everyone down. Distracted, he bumps a cardboard box off a shelf and it lands on a forklift in the other aisle. Cleaning up, his girlfriend unknowingly knocks a length of chain loose and unravels, catching a hook that turns the ignition of the keys in the forklift.
Leaders of Democratic women's groups call Abdul El Sayed's attacks on Haley Stevens sexist. That's what El Sayed does. He called Michelle Obama's work uninspired and ineffectual. Let's reject Abdul El Sayed's sexist attacks.
EJ Barrymore's yours. Our thrill ride makes your heart race and your spirit soar. We are the premier entertainment destination. CJ Barrymore, the daytime, nighttime, good time place.
I thought the clean energy legislation that was passed was really positive for the state. By not having to spend the money on utilities, I can spend money on equipment. I can get new jobs, I can invest in new things, I can pay people a better wage, and I can be more competitive.
The vehicle accelerates forward, and Death is already here to set up his next trap. The goth kid mentions that if Death really is hunting them down in a specific order, then the last person to be targeted could save everyone by sacrificing themselves. This would break the pattern and put an end to Death's design, but nobody is willing to test the theory. Okay, this is an interesting idea, because if it's true, then one girl's death could have saved 9 other lives from the beginning. Now, it's very hard to convince someone to sacrifice themselves on just a hunch, but you can still test the theory by killing them yourself. If there was only one person standing in the way of me and 8 others staying alive, then it's definitely worth killing that person for the greater good. If the last person dies before anyone else, it goes against the order we were supposed to die in. This is a way we could force Death to bend his own rules, and maybe it will break his master plan enough to set us free. Either the last person on the list is completely invincible and can't die until all the others die first, or they can die, which will break Death's pattern. Either way, I would gladly trade a life for this information, as long as it's not my own. Wendy here checks the photo again to see if she missed something, and realizes that the goth kid is about to get impaled by these stakes. The forklift suddenly rams into this wall, which knocked everything off the shelves. The girl pushes the kid out of the way and saves his life as everything comes tumbling down. She's just intervened in Death's plan, and now it has skipped to the next person in line. The goth girl is thrown back and slams her head into a fully loaded nail gun, turning her face into a human pincushion. All of her friends watch in horror as it becomes undeniably clear that they're all one step closer to death. And now there are 5 survivors remaining. Okay, it's not the best timing, but this is when I would be saying "I told you so." Earlier, these kids actually admitted that they didn't know who would be killed first between the 2 of them. If they really wanted to protect these guys, all this effort trying to convince them that their lives are in danger is a massive waste of time, and they did a piss poor job of it. If it's me, I would be coming in here demanding that they should come with me if they want to live. Honestly, I'll hurt them if I have to, and if it escalates into a full-on hostage situation, that's fine with me too. I'm not doing any of this for them, I'm doing it to save my own life. I would rather lock them in a cage against their will where there is no possible way to die, because the longer I keep them alive, the longer I keep myself alive, and that's all that matters right now. Exhausted, Wendy returns home and falls asleep at her desk, but her sister comes in and wakes her up from her nap to take back her bracelet. She leaves the room, but Wendy suddenly realizes something important. She opens one of the pictures on the roller coaster and recognizes the bracelet of one of the unknown passengers. It was her sister on the ride this whole time. She tries to call her, but is sent straight to voicemail and leaves her a message. She then phones Kevin, telling him that her sister and her friend are next on Death's list. She's about to leave for the Tricentennial Fair to warn them, and he reminds her that they'll be next if they don't save her sister. Kevin tells her it's now the right time to look at their death photos for clues. Checking the computer, she looks at his picture and finds one of him squinting from a bright light. He asks if it looks like a firework went off in his face, and she confirms it does. They hang up as Kevin nervously watches the fairground staff load these huge mortars for the fireworks show and realizes his time has come. Okay, this guy should already be running for his life. If you want to stay alive, you're going to need as much control over your environment as possible, and this fair is just about the worst place to do that. There are too many people doing dangerous things, and it creates too many unpredictable outcomes for you to avoid. But the problem is, we can't just hop in a car and drive away. We know that the picture is of a bright light flashing in his face moments before his death. If we drive out of here, then instead of fireworks being the most likely sign, it could easily change to a car's headlights. It's turning dark, and we could be killed in a head-on collision, which statistically is way more likely than dying by fireworks. So staying at the fair might actually be the safer bet. Kevin's entire life depends on the system. So instead of waiting for our turn to die, we should take matters into our own hands and kidnap her. Normally this wouldn't be a viable strategy, but he has a huge advantage because he's a security guard. It's cold-blooded, but knocking her out and dragging her to an empty area of the park is the safest thing he can do. And if anyone saw it, I would say she's passed out drunk. She'll be rightfully upset when she wakes up, but we'll both be alive and she can thank us later. Kevin here is getting nervous as he sees danger everywhere he turns. The tall flame of a barbecue, the sharpened sword of a reenactor, and Ben Franklin flying a key with his kite, hoping for a lightning bolt to strike. Any one of these could kill him, but he has no idea how. He finally spots Wendy's sister with her friends and makes his way over to her. Approaching the girls, he tells them their lives are in danger and they need to come with him, but the situation gets out of hand and the sister storms away. The fireworks are about to begin, and the soldiers leave their post, but the cannon rammer falls over, knocks a cannonball loose, and rolls into a wooden post, holding up the fireworks launcher. Okay, this is not a good sign, and it means death is near. But the problem is, this girl is not interested in anything we have to say, and if we don't want to kidnap her, then we should at least be doing everything in our power to make sure we aren't going to die while we're here. Right now, they think he's going to be killed by fireworks, and the only way we can get a handle on this situation is by controlling it as much as humanly possible. As counterintuitive as it may sound, I would head straight for the fireworks to try and control everything that comes near it. We could remove the fuses or the ammunition or wet them so they can't spark and go off. Now, by doing this, it's just as likely that the method changes is something else as a result. By sabotaging the fireworks, Death might decide to use the barbecue instead, and that would be a lot more difficult to control because it's a manned station and would be harder to interfere with. But the best hope we have is to eliminate as many of the possible sources of death as we can without getting caught, and try to find the sister so we can all leave. Wendy finally arrives at the fair and looks for both Kevin and her sister in the crowd, but can't find them. Suddenly, the lights go out and the show begins. That's when these two kids set everything into motion. They light some firecrackers that go off near a horse and scare it into running loose through the fairgrounds, dragging a fence post with it. Wendy spots her sister with Kevin, but suddenly remembers that there was a merry-go-round in the background of her photo, and now a horse is racing towards them. She yells to look out, and Kevin pushes the girl out of the way, but the fence post wraps around her neck. She's dragged across the fairgrounds and is seconds away from sliding into the gun carriage, but Kevin here steals a sword, cutting the rope just before she gets impaled. Okay, Kevin screwed up here big time. This girl did not appreciate that they were trying to save her life and has been disrespectful every single chance she got. When we look at the value of a life, we should also consider how much society benefits from that life. And my assessment here is that this girl is better off dead. People will miss her, but she's a terrible role model to her friends, and her death will shock them into being better people. If good people die and bad people live, it teaches us all that our actions don't have consequences. This is the one time I'm on Death's side here, and I think we should just support his decision. Her sister is freaking out, but Wendy isn't wasting any time. She demands to know who is sitting next to her on the roller coaster because they're about to die. Another firework goes off and the horse gets startled, ripping the flagpole into the air and impaling her friend right in front of them. Now that 6 people are dead, there are 4 survivors remaining, and Wendy and Kevin here are next on Death's hit list. Suddenly, Kevin gets kicked by the horse into a table, sending a shish kebab flying into the gas line of a propane tank. It explodes into a fireball, but Wendy saves him at the last minute. They've skipped the death order again, and now Wendy is next. She spots the goth kid coming for revenge, and that's when she figures out the clue from her death photo. She remembers that his last name, McKinley, is the same name as her school, and that's the shirt she was wearing in the picture. Helping her friend off the ground, they try to run away, but the goth kid stops them. She begs him to stay away, but when she says this, he realizes that he's the cause of her death. Suddenly, Wendy hears the launcher behind them fall to the ground, and she pulls her friends down as the fireworks fly past them, hitting the cherry picker behind him. The kid takes one last moment to gloat, but the hydraulic piston fails, and the arm swings down, splattering the kid flat on the ground. He wanted to get Wendy killed, but by stopping her, he intervened in her death and saved her life. That's 7 dead and 3 survivors remain. 5 months later, and the death cycle has stopped. Wendy is taking a subway with her friends and is thankful to be alive. That's when she suddenly hears a busker playing Turn Around, Look at Me, the same song that played on the radio at the drive-thru, and realizes that's playing isn't it. Sitting down, she sees in the mirror's reflection that the subway car number is 180 and tries to get off at the next stop, but gets blocked by all the boarding passengers. That's when she runs into her sister, distracting her away from the closing doors, sealing them inside. They sit down, and she tells her that she's still paranoid they're still going to die in freak accidents. But the sister assures her that it's over and nothing bad will happen. She lets it go and takes her to meet her friends, but that's when they spot Kevin sitting in the subway car and realize that this is no coincidence. Death has brought them all together and is going to take them all out. Further down the tracks, a rat triggers the wiring to switch the rail line, and the train hits it, crashing through the tunnels. Wendy's sister gets hit by a loose wheel, and the train tips onto its side, throwing Kevin against the wall. The window cracks beneath him and he falls out, getting ripped to shreds. The train finally comes to a screeching halt, and the only survivor is Wendy here with a broken leg, and there's no one alive to help. That's when she sees another train racing towards her, and she screams in terror. But just as it crashes into her, she's suddenly back on the train moments before the accident happens. Looking at her expression, Kevin here realizes she just had a premonition, and they all panic. He pulls down on the emergency brake, and the sisters try to force open the doors, but the train won't stop, and Death finally gets his revenge. If Death was brutally murdering your friends in freak accidents and you're next, what would you do? There's nowhere safe to hide, and it won't stop hunting everyone down until you're all dead. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat Death in the final destination. In 5 minutes, everyone here will be dead. These 4 friends are watching a car race hoping to see a crash, when Nick here notices something is wrong. Looking up, he sees a huge crack in the foundation of the building and gets a strange feeling that something terrible is about to happen. Death has just picked its next victims, and he's about to turn this place into hell on Earth. Down on the track, a tool flies out the back of one of the cars and lands on the road. Suddenly, a car runs over the tool, setting the vehicle flipping through the air, and a loose tire flies into the crowd, taking this woman's head clean off. Panicking, the audience runs for the exits, but another car catches fire and crashes into the stands, crushing another man to death. The hood of another car is flung off the track and slices this couple in half. Death is having an absolute field day, and as the crowd is trying everything they can to squeeze themselves through the exit, Nick realizes there's no way out of here alive. Okay. This is absolute chaos. The exits are jammed, the building is collapsing, and race cars are crushing people in the stands. But there's actually one thing Nick here can do to have a greater chance at surviving than anyone else. In the 1950s, the government implemented the Federal Civil Defense Administration to educate the public about how to protect themselves in case of an air raid or nuclear attack. The famous solution they came up with was to simply duck and cover if you're in a collapsing building. The problem is, this stadium has nothing for these people to hide under, and we need a different strategy to protect ourselves called the Triangle of Life. Now, this is not a standard government-supported recommendation, but it applies perfectly in this situation because the only points of safety are these support beams. You should position yourself next to them and lie on the floor in the fetal position. This creates a triangle of safety that protects you from the collapsing building. The ceiling will collapse at its weakest point between the support beams, and these pillars here are reinforced steel rebar. So we have a much higher chance of survival if we crouch here in one of these corners while everyone else scrambles for a way to escape. Suddenly, a huge piece of the ceiling crushes everyone in the crowd that's trapped in the exit, and Nick here turns around to look for his girlfriend. That's when an explosion goes off, and he watches Lori and the security guard consumed in flames. Thrown back for the impact, he's pushed straight into a piece of rebar, but just before he dies, he suddenly finds himself back in the bleachers as if nothing ever happened. Nick here looks around confused, but slowly starts to realize that he's reliving the events right before the crash, and they're all about to die if they don't leave this place immediately. Refusing to leave, his friend pushes him down into the crowd, knocking someone over and starting a fight. Nick and his friends run out of the arena, and the angry spectators follow him out of the building to finish what he started. Outside, he tells them that there's going to be a huge crash, and they don't believe him. But suddenly, they hear an explosion. Turning around, they see the audience running for their lives as a ball of flame erupts behind them. This man tries to go back in to save his wife, but the security guard holds him back for his safety. That's when a wheel comes flying out of the arena and decapitates this woman just like the Vision, and all of them are frozen in shock. That's one down with 8 to go. And
MAGA will do anything to get Haley Stevens elected. Trump donors, billionaires, and AIPAC have spent millions to help her. Stevens opposes Medicare for All and even voted to thank ICE for protecting our homeland. A record MAGA loves so much, they're lying about the one person who stands in their way. Abdul Al-Sayed is the strongest candidate to take on Trump.
We don't back down!
That's why he's endorsed by Bernie, AOC, and UAW. Fighting for Michigan PAC is responsible for the content of this ad.
Coded, seasoned to perfection. Break up with drive-through.
Hot. Here.
Building something big and fresh starts. No matter what moment we're in, it's 10 years left for a important story
here and his friends meet up at a coffee shop to process the gruesome deaths they just witnessed. But the boyfriend gets the feeling that this is only the beginning. The girlfriend suggests they should all go to the memorial tonight to honor those who died in the accident, but the others refuse to go back. That's when he tells them he saw a vision of everything that happened, including his own death. But the frat bro thinks he survived because of his lucky car. This man's luck is going to run out sooner than he thinks, because he's going to have the most horrifying death of them all. Okay, this is a pretty freaky situation, because Nick here had a clear experience of his own death and has no answers for what just happened. Now this operates outside of the realms of science, because there's no way to prove what he saw or experienced was real. But if he simply followed the news, he would have quickly realized this isn't the first time something like this has happened. We can see on this TV news report that the name of the racetrack is called McKinley Speedway. And McKinley is the same town where 4 years ago, a bunch of kids died on a roller coaster at a local amusement park. But a girl and her friends got off the ride because she had a premonition that they were all going to die. If they lived in the same town, it wouldn't be difficult to put the pieces together that there were at least 3 separate occasions of kids who had premonitions of their own deaths, and every single survivor of these tragic accidents are now dead. These guys don't want to go to the memorial service, but we should definitely go, because it's where we are most likely to find as many of the survivors all in one place before they all start dying. Now, at this point, we don't have enough information to figure out that death is going to hunt us down in any particular order, but we have good enough reason to think that we are all going to die in freak accidents, so the best thing to do is have as many eyes on everyone at all times to prevent it from happening. I would show them the research and convince them to wear cameras and earpieces, because they could die from anything at any time, and if we can see the signs that death is coming for them, then we might be able to alert them and help them escape this situation. It's definitely a positive to keep others alive, but my real motivation is to use the others to collect evidence of how death tries to kill them, so that I know what to look for when it decides to come after me. We need to be looking at the other survivors as a way to gain information, because the more we know about the threat, the better we will be at evading it for as long as possible. On the night of the memorial, the survivors attend the service to pay their respects. Nick here is leaving with his girlfriend when a security guard from the speedway stops them. He's about to ask the boyfriend how he knew about the crash before it happened, when another survivor confronts the man and blames the guard for letting his wife die. Calling him a racial slur, this man lets the guard know that he's coming after him for revenge. Back at home, Nick here is sleeping when he has a dream of a house with a red door and a metal hook and a huge ball of flames. Across town, the racist man drives to the security guard's house looking for revenge. He takes out a wooden cross from the back of his tow truck, but accidentally knocks the hook loose as it falls to the ground. Leaving it in the street, he starts digging a hole in the guard's lawn to put the cross in, when a gust of wind blows the mirror loose, turning on the radio. The sound vibrations from the music rattle these beer cans off the dashboard and onto the gear shift, knocking the truck apart. The car drives off, and the man runs out to get inside, but the doors are locked shut, and he has no way to stop it. Behind him, the truck's hook catches his legs and begins to drag him across the pavement. A gas canister spills out the back of his truck, and as a chain spark from the friction, the trail catches on fire. He's pulled across the street screaming as his whole body is engulfed in flames. Suddenly, the truck explodes on a fireball, sending the racist's head flying on the guard's lawn, charred to a crisp. That's 2 down and 7 to go. Okay, Nick here definitely should have seen this coming, because death showed him clues in a dream hours before any of this ever happened. This dream is vital information that we can't take for granted, because if we can use it to anticipate what will happen, then we might be able to prevent our deaths for as long as possible. The first clue from the dream is a red door with the address 617. There's no street name, but we could compile a list of addresses in the town with the same house number to discover that anyone we know might live there. The next piece of information is a hook picture. At the memorial service, we saw that this angry redneck had a necklace with a hook on it. This would lead me to think a man might die at this address in the near future. This is a major advantage, because if we know in advance that the redneck is being targeted first, we can use it as a guinea pig and set a trap for death. If the remaining survivors contribute funding to build a bulletproof cage and lock him inside with no way for death to ever get in, we will learn some extremely useful information. Either death will skip you and kill the next victim, or it won't move on to someone else until the redneck is dead, which would be great for the rest of the survivors. The interesting thing is, Nick here has access to information that would support this strategy, because it's been used before by a former survivor of Plywood 80 who was in the news. She managed to evade death for over a year by locking herself into a mental asylum and only died by leaving the facility to help other survivors. The only difference in this case is that we're using the strategy against someone's will to observe how Death reacts to the situation. As cruel as it sounds, it would be hard for the redneck to argue their methods because he's already been targeted, and as soon as he's released from the prison we made for him, he'll be killed by Death. If he stays alive for long enough, then we can confirm that Death is covered by specific rules of legal interview. And we should keep the redneck in prison for as long as we can to stop Death from ever getting to us next. The next morning, Lori here gets a call from her friend to turn on the news, and she watches a report about the redneck dying in a freak accident. She tells her boyfriend Nick to come look, and he's shocked when he recognizes the red door from his dream. That's when he suddenly has another vision, seeing scissors, a smoking cigarette, and a woman's eye. Realizing this is becoming a pattern, he tells his girlfriend the dream he had last night was a vision with clues on how the redneck would die, and he's just had another. Someone else is going to be killed, but he has no idea who's next. Meanwhile, across town, one of the other survivors is at a beauty salon getting her haircut, but Death is already setting things in motion. The hairstylist offers her some water to drink and sets it aside at the dressing table, but the condensation throws an aerosol can towards a hot iron. The hairstylist is focused on the woman's hair and doesn't notice that above them, the fan is beginning to shake loose. Suddenly, her kids come running into the salon and still on the floor, distracting the women. That's when the spray bottle overheats and rockets towards the fan, breaking it off the ceiling, and it comes crashing to the floor. Luckily, it misses the women, but Death isn't done yet. After her appointment, she's about to leave the salon when the groundskeeper drives by in his lawnmower and sends a rock flying straight at the woman. The stone pierces through her eye, just like in Nick's vision, and that makes 3 down, with 6 more to go. Okay, Death is starting to look pretty busted. It took several different attempts to kill this one woman who was sitting stationary in a barber's chair, and at this point, he's just starting to look pressure. With that kind of hit ratio, our survival chances have just gone way up, and that's great news for the rest of the survivors. As far as the rock that killed her, there's really no way to avoid this, and surprisingly, it's not an unprecedented scenario either. Ride-on lawnmowers kill an average of about 70 people each year, but as statistically unlikely as it is, she actually had a chance to survive. Now, this woman met Nick at the memorial earlier, and since Nick knew that she was one of these survivors, he could have warned her and the others that Death is after them as soon as he found out. With this information, this entire scenario could have played out differently, and it all comes back to Tweedledee and Tweedledum. As naughty as her 2 kids are, they're actually a blessing in disguise, because according to Nick's premonition, they never died in the accident, so they aren't on Death's kill list. She could have used her own children as a death-proof shield for any surprise attacks or freak occurrences. Death would have had to work a lot harder at finding an effective way to kill her, because it can't kill the kids yet if it's not the rightful time to die. If Death's own rules prevent him from killing people before it's their turn, then these 2 rats could have been this woman's strongest line of defense, and she can safely use them as shields to hide behind the rest of the way. The next day, Nick and his friends find out about the mother's death and decide to meet up. He tells them about his visions, and the girlfriend shows them articles they found online. These past survivors had premonitions of tragic accidents before they happened, but every single one of them were killed in the same order they would have died in if they had never survived. They all realize the same is going to happen to them if they don't figure out how to stop it. The friends are freaked out and leave the apartment, but that's when Nick here. Alright, meet Shield.
The generation already doomed Gen Beta.
I'm talking about basically every generation on this channel and the ups and downs of this. From Gen Alpha being entirely hooked and sent us to a child that is like farm music. I don't know if it was farm music, but it didn't happen.
Like, this is your favorite song, right? Wait, there's a Generation Beta, like, I thought it was Alpha. Now we have another generation. I'm just now realizing.
So boomers trying their best to hold on to power and ruin the world one more time before they're gone. In fact, my Twitch chat is always trolling me and saying right as to when Tommy drops some type of Gen Z video. I'm highly offended by just this.
Yo, it's crazy. If you're Generation Z, if you're Gen Z, you're not old. The way we used to look at millennials, that's us now. And that's crazy because we still feel young. I feel like a lot of the lingo still comes from us. You know, a lot of the culture still comes from us. But dude, we got 2 generations below us now. Actually, I'm starting to feel like I am old because there's a lot of new lingo I just don't know anymore. I don't know anymore. Y'all Gen Alpha and Gen Beta, they coming up with new stuff.
Dusting out nations on my name, and it needs to stop because already it's new. You see the state of this economy. Anyways, we're gonna do something different and talk about a generation that hasn't even had their chance to make it. And that's Gen Beta. I believe out of all the past generations in modern times, we're proud to be the most failed and have the worst setup to survive. Gen Beta, for y'all that don't know, started in 2025 and will continue on to 2030. And as Gen Z starts to get more older, the last class to graduate from it will be the class of 2030.
Imagine someone telling you they were born in 2026. Bro, that's how you know we gotta wrap it up. We gotta wrap it up. If you're born after, 2020, I don't want to hear it from you. I don't want to hear it from you. No. I'm not gonna think you're a real human being.
Some people probably say, hell no, there's no way there's Gen Z graduating high school in 2030. The generation goes from 1997 to 2012, so that would be the last class to make it. Of course, someone born in 1997 is not related to someone born in 2012 for childhood. That's like this is coffee. My point is, once we reach that final graduation year, there is no going back. We're just going to be inching closer and closer to unstatus. So you basically get called an uncle on the internet if you're born under the age of 21.
Yeah, that's dumb. Yo, let's be honest. You're still young even if you're in your late 20s. Like, especially if you take into consideration that you live into 100. You're not even 1/4 of your life done when you're 21. Let's calm down now. Pub status is 30 and above. Let's just go ahead and let's just claim that.
And Gen Beta is going to be mainly Gen Z's kids. The first main problem Gen Beta is going to have is, you probably guessed it by now, having an AI child. That just sounds diabolical. I gotta wash my mouth out so that Skibbity Toilet is going to look like the Mona Lisa compared to what they're going to grow up. Just like how we were the first generation to grow up with social media in our lives casually, they're going to grow up with AI tools around them normally, AI videos around them normally, AI teachers around them normally. That last one is true. Every country is basically trying to shift education more towards AI. Imagine it's going to happen to a teacher interview you have.
That's creepy. That's creepy. Like, even, no. I love the humanness in teachers. They can teach us their experiences. What is the AI going to teach us?
Guys, this is to help you with your work and teach you. As if teachers all.
And imagine an AI looking at you as you're trying to cheat during a test. You're over here trying to look over to see your homie sis and it just like locks eyes on you. I just feel too creeped out.
Already don't get paid dog salaries and have to deal with worse kids every year. Huh? They're not really bad.
It is cool. You know what? But I'm just trying to be like my idol.
Yeah, there's no, he had to say that jokingly, right? There's no way that's your idol.
What the fuck? Now they're about to get maxed out in the future for some clankers. Some places they have no choice what to do with AI education. In fact, America is one of those places where it will most likely happen. I mean, think of it. Do you know any one of your friends that actually wants to become a teacher for their future career?
No, I feel like there's some careers that people do because it's chill and like there's, their other aspirations in life never really, they never really got it. But if I was in the content creator, I'd probably be a teacher. I like being able to teach, being in front of people, doing things. That would probably be my second job.
I say not a single one of my friends has ever told me they wanted to be a teacher. I'm not lying. Do you see how some of these teachers be ranting about their job on TikTok after having a single shift?
There's no way in hell that if you know that your child has a behavior problem and you miss the entire week of school and then bring them on Friday for the teachers to deal with his actions, there's no way in hell parents really actually do this to us.
I'm gonna just say this. I teach 7th grade, they are still performing on the 4th grade level.
teaching though, you know? I understand IQ plays a part, but you as a teacher, you have to, come on, y'all have to put yourself to a higher standard.
I'd rather be a frontline soldier than a middle school teacher in 2020.
I feel like teachers are not getting paid enough for them to even be incentivized into making students smarter. What about getting pink chips? I don't know, you're a lucky student. Or imagine you're not getting paid enough and then there's students complaining and then they're not paying attention. Damn.
Some of y'all may be saying I'm crazy, but here's this situation. You're either a front of the line student at war or a middle school teacher at home. Now it doesn't sound so bad. You guys are so nervous and teaching at that school will be a lifetime of torture and torment. The teacher crisis is so bad now. Some people say their whole class was taught by substitute teachers. So it's pretty much inevitable that they're going to add AI teachers to school. And look, I'm not dumb to say an AI tool wouldn't help a kid solve problems. In fact,
bro, if y'all are going to use AI to teach classrooms, then what's the point? Like, you might as well just be homeschooled. Like, there's no point of actually going into a classroom setting and getting taught if you could just do this at the comfort of your own home.
Teachers do get overwhelmed in a class a lot trying to help all the kids at one time. The problem is, though, you're losing that basic humanity we've had since humans started education. Everyone remembers that feeling of being a kid stuck on something. Then when your teacher came by, helped explain it better, and you started figuring out how to do the problems, it was like the best feeling ever.
Yeah.
I felt like a kid. If you were putting
shout out to those teachers that you call them for help on a test to see what it means, and then they kind of like